The undead are beings that never really die, and for them creatures, like the immortals, who escape the cycle of life and death. Taking over a small dimension wouldn't be a big challenge. Conquering the place known as Planet Earth was only a matter of time. Or at least that's what they thought, the Great Skeleton points demanding to know how it was possible. He was just an ordinary human, so how is he still alive? The protagonist emerges from the flames and says he will explain, probably because he is tougher than them, and with that, Bam throws a direct punch to the skeleton's chest. But before getting to that, let's go back 2 years. Someone inside a room says they can't take it anymore. She says she let him stay for a while because he said he was going to look for a job, but instead he spends all day playing video games and drinking. If he was going to live like that, then he better go back to his parents' house. Our protagonist with a flushed face tries to explain that going back to his parents at his age is not an option. But the girl says it's even worse that he's depending on his younger sister. He enters the room without saying anything while she keeps talking, saying that at least he should use that small allowance he receives to look for a job and stop being a burden. The guy simply closes the door, breathes deeply while listening to her rant. He lets himself fall on the bed and tells himself that Kang Hyun is pathetic. Why does he live like this? The only thing he had achieved since he arrived in Seoul was getting a 1-week job at a big company. Then he was fired. At this point, even a part-time job carrying boxes would be something, just to earn a little money. He notices the computer is still on and murmurs that life would be much easier if it worked like a video game. At least in games he was good, and it would be easy to get a decent job. He could choose to be a warrior, of a swordsman, and in the middle of that daydream he falls asleep. Suddenly, a bunch of system windows appear. A connection with a dimension called Hacker is detected while our guy keeps snoring. The message says the connection has been temporarily denied, and that the tutorial will begin on Earth. Kang opens his eyes, and when he looks around he finds himself floating in some kind of void, right in front of his eyes. Those words are floating in the air. The message says the full connection with the HACKEN dimension will take 4 years and 364 days. Then it welcomes Kang Hyun to the tutorial. There would be a total of 8 stages, and this was only the first. Dying there would not affect reality, but at the same time, if he gave up or failed, there would be no second chances, and whoever completed the tutorial would get an awakening and an additional reward. Someone should call the FBI on this guy seriously. The first thing he imagines is that some level 98 NPC is calling him to connect, and the idiot even blushes, realizing that his video game addiction is really affecting his brain. Only at that moment, more or less, he realizes the reality. Well, it really isn't reality, right? Because now he's convinced this is a dream. Poor guy has no idea that none of this is a dream. Or, well, it is now. I'm confused too. Anyway, he starts being transported to stage 1, and the system wishes him luck, hoping he can save the Earth. He stands there confused, thinking what this saving the Earth thing is about. The final message just says that once he reaches his destination, they will have to cross to the other side of the bridge. Failure condition, death. Before he can even imagine what bridge they are talking about, boom, he is teleported, and you can see the reflection of the flames in his eyes. That's because, my friend, he just fell straight into a lava beast challenge. But yes, he fell straight into the lava and died instantly. He looks around trying to understand what's happening, and if that really was lava, the heat, however, was very real looking. Around, he sees a bunch of people and tries to find out what's happening. He's sure he was at home. While thinking this dream is ridiculous, someone calls his name. Ivan is the same girl who was scolding him earlier. Our guy is Kang Hyun, and she is Yuna Hyun, Korea, and their wonderful names. He wants to know what the hell she is doing in the first dream he has had this year. It's ridiculous. She replies that he is not the one who decides that, but at the same time, he wonders if this really is a dream. He saw a bunch of messages talking about saving the Earth or something like that. Kang calls her by her name and says, Yuna Hyun, stop pretending this is your dream because it's mine. She replies, that's not the point. Besides, the lava wouldn't be so hot if this were a dream. How could there be such a normal conversation inside a dream? Nothing makes sense. He laughs and says, the brain is easy to fool. No one really knows if a dream is real or not. Besides, you can feel pain in dreams. Whoever says otherwise is lying. For example, he has had many dreams where he wet himself but woke up completely dry. His sister congratulates him for having the courage to say something like that out loud. He just ignores her and starts walking, saying he's going to cross to the other side of the bridge, just like the challenge said, of course. Since this is his dream, an NPC like her wouldn't know anything about it. She bursts out, telling him that she does know in fact, and also to stop calling her that. This is his dream. What really surprises her, however, is that he is not afraid of falling and dying. He says she's being silly if he dies. He will simply wake up, but right in the middle of the sentence, a body flies between them. When he looks down, oh man, the guy falls, starts melting, writhing in pain, and both are left trembling just from seeing it. The smell of burnt flesh reaches them, and she asks what he was saying before. Now both are trembling. He says that scream sounded very real. But he's not scared at all. His sister sighs and says he's really is an idiot better. If he crouches and crawls, it's much safer that way. He's there pretending not to be scared, but a few minutes later, everyone else is already moving forward, and the two are crawling like everyone on the path. She asks what he thinks is happening. Do you have any idea? He says he's sure. It's just a super realistic nightmare, to which she tells him to wake up and be realistic. There's no way a dream or nightmare feels so real. Something was happening that they couldn't even begin to understand, and maybe if they died there, they would really die in real life. Kang laughs and says he's trying not to think about that, but you keep talking, and now I'm scared to death. She clearly sees him. The bastard was just pretending to be calm, totally useless. He collapses face down and asks if they can stop for a second to rest. No, because he's trembling and afraid of dying. No, of course not. It's just that he's tired. That's all she asks. If he plans to stay there lying like an idiot, and he tells her she has to understand there's still a small chance this is just a dream, until that little system window appeared again in front of them. The set time for the tutorial was over, and that's why the difficulty was going to increase. Suddenly, the whole place starts shaking. Honestly, I'm impressed that some people are still standing there like nothing, but to be fair, that bridge isn't that narrow, right? There's room for both feet, side by side, legs a little apart. Yes, I could cross it alone. Just don't put me there, please. Anyway, the part of the bridge behind Kang starts collapsing. All the bridges everywhere are breaking now. It's chaos, with no turning back. Seriously. Yuna shot off and became Nusa, and Bolt left nothing but a trail. Our guy didn't have much choice, so he had to do the same run and thinks it's okay. The bridge wasn't even that thin to begin with. As long as he doesn't trip, he'll reach the end without problem. You just have to focus on the ground and look ahead. I feel like I'm watching Squid Game. He's almost at the exit. He can already see it. On the other side, he's already celebrating, thinking this is about to end. But then he looks to the side, and the bridge under his sister starts to collapse. He calls her. She looks down, but it's already too late. Still, the guy has that protagonist energy. He had been scared the whole time, but now courage bursts out of him. He jumps, grabs her, and leaps to the other side with her in his arms. He saved the girl. Right after a message appears saying that they leveled up and passed the first stage, they would be temporarily awakened as a reward. Although the full awakening would only happen when the tutorial ended. Kang Hyun stretches and says, finally it's over. I could barely move from fear. Meanwhile, his sister is more interested in all this tutorial stuff and the awakening. What is all this? He tells her she should be thanking the guy who saved her honestly, but she ignores him, distracted by a status window that appears. Kang says a status window is what anyone would want to get on their birthday. His gamer instincts are stronger than fear, and he jumps up to check it out. I see there's a resurrection trait or something like that, but there are no skills or powers, and the stats don't seem very high either. And before we can see the rest, boom, he wakes up in the same old bedroom. It seems to be the next day, and now he's convinced it was all a dream. But of course, the internet is exploding with stories about this strange dream. Some people saying it was the weirdest lucid dream they've ever had. Others talking about how real the sensation of dying felt. Naturally, with so many people sharing the same story, everyone is puzzled. But being human, they're already having fun with it, throwing out hashtags, meme coins. And honestly, that's probably exactly what would happen if something like this were real. What everyone is forgetting is that the full connection is still 5 years away back with our protagonist. He opens the door and immediately starts arguing with his sister. Both talk at the same time about the status window, a challenge who died, who didn't. She yells at him to shut up, he tells her the same. In the end, they both end up exhausted and silent and wonder if maybe they should eat something first. Meanwhile, social media is going crazy. End of the world, shared dreams, lucid nightmare. What the hell just happened? The two siblings hear all this and now they know. For sure. It wasn't just them, this happened worldwide. Kang says at least it's a relief that dying in the dream didn't affect anyone in real life. But she says it was scary anyway, seeing those people die and burn right in front of her was too much. At least anyone who died like that must be traumatized now. She wonders if it's even okay that they're sitting there eating so calmly. It felt like the whole world was losing its mind. He thinks for a moment and says there's not much more they can do. That's when he hears screams outside, so he decides to go see what's happening. When he looks out the window, there's a crowd fighting apparently right in front of his supermarket. They're already wrecking the place, looting, shouting about some kind of apparition. What's going on? The whole world went crazy overnight. To be honest, I saw the news from the United States. People there seem to be acting the same. So yeah, it feels pretty realistic. His capitalist sister is upset because she won't be able to go to work today, and he tells her to be realistic. Like they're just going to go out, like nothing. Don't even think about it. It's too dangerous to go out now. They had to remember everything that message said about the connection with HACKEN. Just then, the sister tells him to open the status window, and he immediately comments that he still has no idea what it really means. But one thing is clear, whatever comes, they have 5 years to prepare, and just seeing the chaos in the streets, From day one, it's clear it won't be easy. The sister only thinks to herself that this idiot is saying something sensible for once after all the madness. In the morning, things seem to calm down. People return to their normal routines in South Korea and start sitting down again, and with that the first day ends. But the moment he closes his eyes, the system window appears again, welcoming him back to the tutorial. It asks if he wants to learn how everything works, but he says no. He just wants to see his status screen. The guy got nerfed, oh my god, Kang. 8 inches, strength, 9 inches, agility, and an extra skill he's trying to figure out if that's good or bad. But honestly, you need comparisons to know those kinds of things. What catches his attention, however, is that he has a magic power stat. And besides that, he sees a very interesting word, innate skill, resurrection. Now I'm confused. So that resurrection skill isn't part of the tutorial. It's really his own. The skill allows him to come back to life 24 hours after dying and remains active until the world gets out of the current crisis. Ah, now it makes sense. It's like a respawn point in Minecraft. He resurrects at the last bed, or rather the last place he slept. Unless he chooses a new site, the penalty is that he loses a level every time he dies, and his stats drop 50% for 24 hours. This bastard is already excited, celebrating. He's sure he won't be a useless side character. With that power, the moment the system asks him if he wants to move on to stage 2, he says yes. He needs to know immediately if his stats are low or high. The story says he was really celebrating that resurrection skill. But he had no idea what was coming next. Inside a blood-stained castle, a goblin screams and lunges straight at him, aiming for his head, but the small and slippery green creature dodges the system, announces that in stage 2, he will have to defeat all enemies to prove his strength. Luckily, the boy has experience. He's played tons of video games, so he detects the goblin's pattern and lands a clean hit. The creature is covered in blood, its weapon dripping, while Kang trembles from the feeling of having killed a living being he was about to vomit. And the only reason he didn't die was because that thing was also trying to kill him. He keeps moving forward, and from behind one of the walls, a huge goblin watches him the moment he sees it. Our boy freezes. The big one sees that his companion was killed behind his back, starts walking toward him, and Kang wonders why there are already 2 enemies right at the start. Weren't goblins supposed to be small and easy enemies for beginners? But this thing is holding a sword at least 1 meter long. The monster lets out a roar and attacks, striking directly. His hand he manages to block but is completely shaken. The boy has never been to the gym, and all he did was sit at home, playing video games. So when that 1 meter sword clashed with his barely 70-kilo body, it instantly blew the weapon out of his hands. And of course, the goblin kept attacking, slashing upward with his sword and splitting him open. He got brutally beaten right there with blurred vision, and his whole body trembling. He wonders why he has to go through something like this. And honestly, the strangest thing is that he doesn't even know why he hasn't died yet. Yeah, seriously, no one's going to tell him that. Maybe it's because of that resurrection skill, although now I'm confused too. Resurrection means you die and come back, not that you're immortal. While they drag him across the ground, Kang starts wondering how much blood a human really has while they drag him. He can feel death approaching his neck, and before dying finally. He was tortured for hours by 4 goblins. His sister wakes up to the screams, runs to the room and asks what the hell he's doing acting like that so early in the morning, but then she sees him all curled up and trembling, murmuring that the goblins are scary. He's shocked completely out of his mind. Honestly, I thought he was just being one of those pathetic guys. But then he starts explaining it. During breakfast, he tells her they made him bleed to death. First, they tore off the fingernails, then the fingers, then the toenails, and so on. She even asks him to stop talking. She apparently died too. But it wasn't nearly as horrible. She wants to know if that's the only reason he was screaming. And he tells her that if she had gone through what he went through, she'd also wake up screaming. She says it's okay, she understands, but asks if he doesn't want to go to the hospital or something. It seems psychiatric hospitals are filling up lately because of these experiences. He sits down and says he doesn't think it's necessary. It was horrible, but not that bad. Then he says he has at least one piece of good news. Apparently, once you die, the tutorial ends. The guy thinks, phew, finally I can lie down and sleep peacefully. But no, the system welcomes him. Back to the tutorial, the poor guy just screams, asking, what the hell is happening? Still completely traumatized, he stays sitting at the bottom of a cave for hours, hoping maybe he'll wake up or something. But no, nothing happens. Eventually, he gets up, realizing he has no choice but to move forward. Last time he grabbed a mace, thinking it would be simple and strong, but now he's terrified to approach the goblins. A bow or a crossbow sounds like a better idea. Like every Korean, he had some experience from military service, so he thought, yeah, this should work. But he really thought he was going to grab an M4 or something. He aims, shoots Rosal. Goblin, the little monster, turns around and throws him a look, kills. Luckily, the guy had brought 2 weapons, a bit cheating, right? He also brought a spear. He gathered all his courage, and bam, he stabbed it right into the chest of the first goblin, already celebrating. saying he took down one of those bastards he turns to defend against the second. But guess what? This is not a video game. The spear was still stuck in the other goblin and he couldn't pull it out. And at that moment, the bigger second one jumped on him and cut him to pieces. Well, at least this time, he woke up in his room. Let's hope he didn't spend the whole night suffering. That's exactly what he's celebrating. Yes, he's sweating and beaten up, but at least it was instant. The system appears again, and he gives a thumbs up. Stage 2, round 3. This time he chooses the shield. Why? Because he spent the whole day watching YouTube videos on how to use a sword. The guy says, he's ready, bring on the damn green goblins. Yes, he didn't last long. He woke up again, while losing his mind, screaming he's going to kill them. All his sister just watches him, wondering if this is already affecting his head. Once again, appears the welcome screen. It's time for round 4, but instead of rushing into combat, this time he just stays there, moving the sword up and down. After a few hours doing that, his vitality stat goes up. One point, he spent 8 hours doing that. Checking his status window, he finally sees something changed. He remembers he has that point for additional skills. He seems to have invested it in strength, and now he's ready to charge. He says he's going to take revenge now that he has 2 extra points. But obviously, yes, he wakes up again in his room. It seems this time he didn't even manage to kill a single goblin, which is just embarrassing. Round 5, he does the same again, swings his sword for 8 hours and gains another point in vitality. Round 6, after spending 10 hours doing squats, push-ups, and everything he could think of, he gains another point in strength. At that point, he was already handling 2 goblins. At the same time, with some ease, the problem was that he still lacked the fundamental skills. Even if he could survive the first 2, it was not enough to face the rest. In round 7, he made a decision. He would only train with the sword non-stop. He kept cutting and cutting and cutting as always. After a few hours, he gained another vitality point. He fell to the ground, exhausted, and a window appeared. His skill with the sword finally rose from the worst possible rank to rank F. The system explained that the skill now helped him adjust his posture and distribute force more effectively. Of course, he was still as bad as a drunk neighbor waving a sword, but well, it was better than nothing. He should have been celebrating, saying that now he could take revenge on those bloodshot-eyed bastards. He says, today, everyone dies. There were a total of 5 goblins in the second tutorial. 2 guarded the front of the castle, and 3 were in the back to those 2 over 1. He had faced them so many times they were practically training dolls. Eliminate the first with a crossbow bolt and finish off the second with his sword. The real problem was those from the forest. He manages to take down 2 of them using strategy, but the last one was a real challenge. The goblin's axe clashes against his sword. Now they're in a full duel. The monster launches another attack. He blocks with his shield, and that's when he starts to notice something. Now he can see the attacks. His body reacts. Before his eyes can fully register the movements, he feels lightness in his arm. The rank F skill activates, and he almost manages to stab the goblin in the chest with his sword, but only manages to scratch his cheek. The real problem is that he knows what to do, but after fighting 4 goblins, he is completely exhausted. The goblin attacks again, hits his sword directly and throws it into the air. The monster lunges to finish him off, but Kang just starts laughing in the middle of the fight. He says it's because he already knows this bastard. He knows the goblin enjoys torturing people. He purposely avoids lethal blows. His pattern is too obvious, so Kang makes a classic street fight move, kicks dirt into the goblin's eyes. The monster is blinded, swinging blindly, and Kang grabs a stone and smashes it against the goblin's shin. The guy starts staggering, moving aimlessly, while Kang positions himself behind and crushes his face with the stone. Apparently, he killed the goblin with a rock. The system congratulates him, gives him some bonus stats, lets him choose a new weapon, and even unlocks a new skill, the worst possible rank in shield use. Kang is celebrating, but he can already feel that the next round will wipe that smile off his face. He levels up twice and declares that he will prove that humans are superior to goblins. The next morning, he has a strange expression. Probably some meme. I don't know. He says this is the strong morning and that he is Kang, feeling absolutely amazing to celebrate, having passed stage 2. He makes himself a coffee, and of course, like everything he does now, it turns out perfect. But then he hears a loud noise outside and his sister bursts into the room asking what he did this time. Right at that moment, the system appears saying the world tutorial has ended. From now on, he can freely use the system outside the tutorial and more girls will start appearing. He runs to the house entrance and looks outside, and right there in the middle of the street, a dungeon door has appeared. He and his sister immediately understand what it is, while the rest of the people are just standing, confused looking at it, but only the awakened can enter those doors. They started appearing all over the world, and guess what? If they weren't cleared in time, the doors collapsed. Meanwhile, the connection with that place called HACKEN kept showing 4 years and 357 days. Now I'm getting a bit confused. I thought the tutorial had 8 stages, so what's going on here? Well, obviously, once those doors were activated, the world fell into chaos. Even worse than the first day, as usual, the brothers stayed calm and decided to stay quietly at home investigating. Kang discovered that apparently the tutorial was not completely finished. Anyone who had recently had a birthday, specifically those who had just turned 16, was now eligible to join. His sister says people can't stop talking about the younger girls. It is rumored that those who receive talents are now forced to enter those portals and clear them, but our guy is excited. Now, he can have the full status window in the real world. He orders the system to open it, but it responds that the tutorial is still ongoing, so it is not possible yet. It seems strange to him, but then he remembers, of course, the tutorial has 8 stages. While he kept repeating stage 2 to 1 over and over, the rest of the participants had already finished it. After all, 8 days had passed since everything began. So he tells his sister there is nothing left but to finish the tutorial, and asks if she found any information about stage 3. She says the only thing she heard is that the theme seems to be patience. That was all she could find out. Very few people passed stage 2. So details about stage 3 practically do not exist. He flexes his biceps and says it will be easy. He has become very strong and will not suffer. Again, like before, stage 3 will be a piece of cake. And so we arrive at that same night, stage 3, curiously. That golden liquid, the monster is pouring on him. Yes, it is exactly what you are thinking in stage 3. The system explains he must demonstrate his persistence and tenacity. The mission is to kill the boss Gorka. As always, failure means death. The event indicates that if he waits, the right moment it will come. He is motivated, dressed in camouflage clothes. But he wonders what this infiltration and assassination is all about. Whatever it is, the first step is to find out where those guys are. He checks his status window to see what's new. Now he is level 4. He has also unlocked crossbow mastery. The guy shines with new skills and perks. He invests his extra points in strength and vitality, still feels something is missing. Some reward he doesn't remember, claiming so. The system opens the inventory tab. He touches the sword and takes it out of the interface. The only problem is that it is worn out, all battered. But with no better option, he decides it's time to see what this Gorka thing is about. He tells himself, this is the story of Carlos Hitchcock, that legendary American sniper, who crouched for 3 days at 1.4 kilometers distance just to eliminate a general. That is his mental state. Now it seems he has been crawling for 10 straight hours. Finally, he sees the enemy cabin. There are 2 guards outside. He wonders if maybe he should just shoot and force his way through. By now, his clothes are soaked in urine. He couldn't move for hours and is covered in bugs right at that moment. Something blocks the light above him. Yes, you guessed it. A golden rain falls on him and he remains completely still. The guy really has patience. When the creature moves away, Kang keeps telling himself, be patient, be patient. But suddenly, he lunges forward, charging directly at the creature and shouting he will take revenge. For what happened, the slash is cleaned perfectly. Aimed, and the first one falls dead. The second grabs a spear and confronts him. At that moment, an alarm sounds in the village, and suddenly he is surrounded by goblins coming from all directions. The guy loses control, smiling like a maniac, and says if he's already screwed, at least he can say that phrase he's always wanted to say, sons of. Yes, that one, and you would believe it. He unlocks a new skill, Lion's Roar. Alright, the second round begins. This time he jumps straight into action and starts with that. Lion's Roar, attracting all enemies to him, and charges straight in. After crawling for 10 hours on his first attempt, he realized something about those monsters. The Gorka warriors go out hunting during the day and only return at night. In other words, the camp is much weaker during the day with no one to defend it. So what does he do? He starts cutting down everything in his path. He enters the main tent without hesitation, but inside he sees a chubby guy. Escorted by 2 hooded mages, the boss points at him and immediately, a magic circle forms behind Can bomb low-level immobilization spell. And right at that moment, he wonders what kind of tutorial the hell includes this. Then he remembers the description of the Lion's Roar. It removes any penalty below rank D. He takes a breath, roars again, and the penalty breaks. He charges, takes 2 steps toward the boss, jumps into the air, and shouts, everyone has a plan, and until you hit them with a sword in the face, and he makes it. I thought they were going to tear him apart again. As a reward, he obtains an intermediate regeneration skill. And also, since he completed stage 3 in record time, he receives the title of the Impatient Kang. He is excited. It took him a whole week to get through stage 2. But now, stage 3 in just 1 day, seeing how fast he is growing. He comes to a conclusion, apparently. He is the talented chosen protagonist. At this rate, he thinks he will beat stage 4 inches, a few minutes. He is already imagining killing dragons and walking in golden armor. But then we jump a month into the future. On television, they report that 25 days have passed since the gates appeared. The first response squads have already been formed and deployed in the dungeons. Civilians, awakened, are encouraged to join the groups in exchange for rewards. His sister is in the kitchen cooking quietly when she hears him scream from the bedroom, but by now she doesn't even flinch. She tells him to calm down, but he comes out yelling from the room, saying he finally finished. He walked straight through and killed everything he found. She reminds him he said he was going to give up, but then stops looking at him with a strange expression. He looks different from afar. It seems he grew 50 centimeters and became a mountain of muscles. She looks at him like saying, "You were ugly, and now you're worse." Meanwhile, the guy murmurs into the void that those bastards from the tutorial are pushing him to the limit. His sister tells him to relax. He looks like a delinquent, and she asks what the hell is going on in stage 4. He explains it was more of a group job. He had to demonstrate his leadership skills. The mission window said if he failed, he died. He had to remove the dungeon core, and preferably leave without losing any companions. The other guys with him were apparently all NPCs assigned to the mission. At first, Kang just observed. The group argued whether they should retreat, and things heated up. But he managed to calm them and convince them to move forward. Together, at first, it seemed like he could carry the whole team. He used Lion's Roar to boost morale, and with his healing and regeneration skills, staying alive was easy. His sister asks, "So why did it take you a whole month?" And he answers, "It all started that same night. And while he was sleeping, those bastards tried to kill him. He didn't even finish chewing before they screamed at him again. Even when he sent them to patrol at night, they came back and ambushed him, and somehow they still killed him. It seemed all attempts ended the same, and in that nightmare of a stage, he had to come up with a brilliant strategy to win." His sister asks what it was, and he slams the table and says it was simple: hit them all. Before starting the dungeon cleanup, things got intense at the final part. He appeared, and as always, the group was in another pointless debate. Advance, retreat, who knows? So Kang breathed out Lion's Roar and shouted for them to shut up. A girl asked him why he was doing that, and without saying anything, he pointed with his sword and announced that from now on everyone would follow his orders. Anyone who refused would die if he responded. "You also died," the first guy. Poor soul dared to ask if he was crazy, and boom, Kang broke his nose, blow after blow. Even while everyone was shouting for him to stop, he kept hitting him, saying, "I told you not to respond." Everyone starts trembling. Kang turns to them and says, "Now everyone will follow me, because I know the way. Whoever doesn't will die." Well, problem solved, I guess, but this guy is getting brutal. A skeleton throws a slash. Kang catches it in the air with his bare hand. He pulls it and splits it in two. He tells the team that was Luz, the last one. And they're all standing there trembling, whispering that he's really wiping out everything. Finally, he finds the dungeon core. The mission is to destroy it, so he cuts the support. The system congratulates him for completing stage 4 as a reward. He obtains the skill cut at level E and the mental fortification buff at level B. After all, he says, the result wasn't bad at all, fighting so many enemies. Of course, his stats increased, and he got a ton of loot. He still doesn't know what to do with the mana stones he got from the skeletons, but he's sure they'll be useful. The cut skill is a powerful sword slash that has a chance to cut enemies in half. It has a limit, of course, but it also ignores part of the enemy's defense and that mental fortification. Turns out it's not a skill, it comes from a ring he found. While he has it equipped, no mental skill of rank A or lower can affect him. He knew the training had been incredible, but his favorite reward by far. Now, he can do 300 push-ups in a row, totally ripped seriously. Look at his physique, and he already realized normal training is no longer enough. Maybe it's time to go to the gym or something. Just then, his phone vibrates, he checks it, and it's a government alert. Dungeon has appeared in a certain area, and citizens are ordered to stay home and close their doors for safety. At first, he thinks, oh, another dungeon, but this one exploded, something went wrong, and now there are goblins loose in the city killing everyone. It seems they forgot to clear the dungeon or didn't make it in time, and just like the alert said, the door opened and now the monsters are invading. And the worst part is it's not a distant district, it's right in front of his house. Even worse, his sister had gone out to work while he was doing sit-ups. He rushes out looking for a weapon because since he hasn't finished the tutorial, he can't access his inventory in the real world, so yeah, he grabs a kitchen knife. It's all he has. A second later, he's on the street running, shouting, challenging the bastards. He tries to activate Lion's Roar, but nothing happens, because since the tutorial isn't finished, his skills don't work in the real world. The goblins just look at him confused, and then he understands this will be much harder without his skills. Still, he managed to get their attention. At least now, no one else in the area will die. There's only one problem. 2 armed goblins are already charging straight at him. The guy has died so many times he's losing his mind. He mocks the goblins, saying that since stage 2 he's already above their level, but even though he talks big, he's tense. He knows these guys could be different now. They're no longer tutorial mobs. Still, with a quick knife move, he cuts one, saying he can measure their strength just by how they move. And he already has the blade at the monster's neck. He tells the bastards to come closer. He already stole a sword and says he has a lot of work to do. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, people are barricading the door of an office. Everyone is trembling because something is banging from the other side. And yes, it's the office where his sister works. She's sweating buckets. He had sent her a message asking if she was still at work, and she only replied yes, but told him not to come. Then, the screams and sound of slashes begin. From outside, the door breaks, the furniture falls, and who enters the madman himself covered in blood with a knife in hand, saying, "Sorry for breaking the door, but little sister, I'm here now." He looks like a complete psychopath, even with the sword in his hand, and everyone looks at him like saying, "Is this really his brother?" While he looks around the office, a guy in the back shouts, asking who the hell he is and why he broke his barricade. His only protection, Kang. He calmly apologizes and tells them not to worry, that the monsters are already dead. Everyone is paralyzed with fear. But he tells them to grab a weapon, even if they fail the first stage. Any normal person should be able to handle a goblin, just his sister. Asks where he's going, and he answers that obviously he saw more goblins on the way and he's heading there. Even if only a few remain, he wants to make sure everyone can sleep peacefully. Tonight's scene change. She is pouring water on his arm, and the guy keeps growing seriously what is happening. He's going to reach 5 meters at this rate. Now she's angry. She tells him to stop acting tough and demands to know why he's out there looking for fights. He explains that he didn't want to get hit, but normally he has a regeneration ability that helps him heal. The problem is that since he's out of the tutorial, that doesn't work here, so things aren't going very well. People have put the barricade back up, and she tells him to be more careful. If he can't use his abilities, that also means he can't resurrect. Clearly he's not right in the head. He just shrugs and says it was still great. She replies, "Yes, that's why you deserve that beating." But even if she thinks that, it seems someone else has a different opinion. His boss wants to meet him now. The guy is all red. And here we are. It's time for stage 5. This time the test is about demonstrate wisdom and overcoming mental obstacles. The poor guy had almost forgotten he's still trapped in all this mess. And what a group. The blue-haired one is telling the redhead she's a succubus. The archer tries to calm everyone. And our protagonist sees this cast of beauties and wonders what kind of incredible situation he has fallen into. The objective of stage 5 is to find and kill a succubus who is pretending to be human. As always, if he fails, he dies. Obviously, the succubus is hiding her identity and will attack first whoever discovers her. Kang. He's already sweating buckets. He knows what these demon women are. He knows they disguise themselves as beautiful women to absorb your energy. The problem is all the girls in his group fit that description perfectly. Then Alicia approaches him with shining eyes and asks what he thinks. She wants to know who he suspects is the succubus. He looks at her, completely bewildered, thinking she's even more beautiful up close, all mixed up inside. He stammers, saying he's not sure. He really has no idea, but just at that moment, the system sounds. His mental fortification ring just resisted an attempt of seduction. Wow, our guy is sitting by the fire, thinking about everything that has happened. Stage 1 was literal hell. Stage 2, one brutal fight against goblins. Stage 3, someone peed on him. Stage 4, a whole month of pain. He has been through everything, suffering like a dog just to survive. But for the first time, he really believes he could win easily. He quickly covers his mouth, realizing he was smiling like an idiot. If she realizes he discovered her, she will probably kill him. While he sleeps, and at the same time, he knows succubi are no joke. Any demon capable of disguising as a human and seducing like that must be very powerful. And if the other guys are already under her spell, he's the only one who can act. He thinks maybe it would be smart to talk to the other girls, but not tonight. He decides to sleep naturally, wakes up again in his sister's office. He jumps up shouting, "People, tell him to calm down, the army is coming." But he's furious. Are you sure that damn succubus realized he wasn't under her spell and killed him while he was sleeping? Suddenly he stops, waits. What is this? About the army arriving? And yes, there are the troops. They enter shooting wildly and riddling the goblins with bullets. Finally, real bullets work against those damn green Kang. He watches through the window while everyone celebrates, thinking it's over. But then he feels something strange. What is this sensation? He manages to ask. It's as if something dangerous is approaching. As if he doesn't even finish the thought, the soldiers fire non-stop, wondering why it's not working. And then they see it. A red goblin walking through the bullets. They bounce off him like they were rubber. They keep shooting, emptying everything they have, but even a shot clean to the forehead only makes him tilt his head as if nothing. Then the goblin roars, completely deranged, and charges the vehicle. The soldiers speed up shooting while fleeing, but the goblin jumps, falls onto the car, and pulverizes the entire squad. Kang watches in shock from above. Just the aura of that goblin is enough to leave anyone completely paralyzed. The nearby soldiers murmur that Squad 3 was annihilated. One shouts for reinforcements. But suddenly he grabs his head in pain, and just like that, the goblin is already standing on the car hood, licking his lips. They ask, "Where are the reinforcements?" And someone says they're sending a talented civilian. Brother, a civilian won't do anything against that. The goblin jumps again, ready to kill. The soldier points his weapon, knowing this is the end, but just then Kang appears and throws a cement block directly into the goblin's mouth. The creature flies out and crawls on the ground. Our guy gets into the car and asks the soldier if he's okay. Seeing Kang's face, the guy trembles. "You're another monster." Kang murmurs, "Calm down. I'm the reinforcement. Lower that weapon." The soldier, still trembling, tries to understand why Kang looks so damn threatening. Then he apologizes and thanks him for the help, but Kang simply replies, "Get ready, because that thing is going to get up again," and the reason Kang got into this mess is because he saw the goblin look toward the office and knew that when it finished downstairs it would go straight for his sister. So he asks, "Did you bring tear gas? Something chemical?" The soldier nods. "Good," says Kang. Use it. Use it all. Don't worry. I have a way to deal with this." He starts walking toward the goblin and tells them to open fire. His sister watches from above, terrified. Meanwhile, Kang walks straight toward the monster and says with a smile, "Look at you. Not bad at all." The soldiers at that moment throw the tear gas grenades right under the creature's feet. At least it was having an effect. The monster starts attacking wildly in all directions in panic, and our guy realizes it moves. Just like those hobgoblins he fought before. It's also suffering, of course, but it's much more accustomed to pain than any creature. His first hit makes the monster lose its weapon, and now all it can do is take a beating. The problem is Kang's arms shake wildly, almost as if he's about to cry, wondering why the hell this thing is so damn tough. The soldier from before watches from afar, clearly impressed by the guy's talent, when another guy appears asking, "What's going on?" A blonde guy comes in wanting to know who's fighting. Is he the reinforcement they sent at this point? After all that effort, Kang's weapon is worn out and completely destroyed, and he still hasn't achieved anything. His eyes burn like hell, and the damn goblin doesn't even have a scratch. He wonders if he should use some martial arts technique, or try to break a joint or something like that. Suddenly, someone else intervenes and starts cutting the monster, and by the speed and strength, whoever this guy is, he's no amateur. Kang didn't even see the attack coming and wonders who the hell that speedster is. But apparently the blonde didn't land a real hit. He attacked, yes, but didn't cut anything. He yells at Kang and tells him that this thing is the boss of an F-rank dungeon. Its defense is incredibly high, but it must have a weak point. Kang is surprised that the guy knows what an F-rank dungeon is, which means he clearly has experience. They charge at the goblin again, and the blonde tells Kang to keep the pressure. It seems the monster is running out of energy and its defenses are starting to fall. Kang continues the attack, but keeps thinking, what's the point of exhausting its energy if they're not even doing real damage? At that moment, his sword breaks and he needs another weapon. He immediately remembers the one he took from the goblin, runs and picks it up. The blonde yells at him to attack from the other side. It seems the monster's weak point is exposed from there, but Kang had already discovered it. The creature is willing to take hits anywhere, everywhere, except the eyes. The problem is it protects that area with everything, so first he'll have to create an opening somewhere else. He says he doesn't know what else to do. Blood flies and suddenly Bam hits right at the monster's vital point. Kang even stops for a second and apologizes to the creature, saying it was a dirty hit. He says he felt as if the sword moved by itself toward that point. Maybe that really was its weak point. He's not completely sure, but now that he has managed to penetrate it, he's going to finish that thing off. He lifts it still impaled and slams it against the ground, tearing it apart. The monster bounces off the concrete. Kang is already after it again. By now the poor beast is groaning, foaming at the mouth, and Kang stabs it with the sword one last time. While finishing it off, the blonde guy just watches from afar thinking, damn, this guy really is strong. The only problem is he has no idea where this talented guy came from. He was an independent player. Right at that moment, the item the goblin dropped, it begins to materialize. But since Kang hasn't finished the tutorial yet, he can't see what it is. Obviously, he picks it up anyway. He'll find out when he finishes the tutorial by storing it in his inventory. The blonde approaches to ask who he is, but Kang is already suspicious. He thinks this guy might try to keep the item, because technically, when you fight in a group, you're supposed to share the loot. But he never asked for help. That guy got involved alone, worried that he might try to claim what he just picked up. Even though he doesn't even know what it is, Kang starts running, saying he's very busy and has things to do. He winks over his shoulder and says, "See you." And the blonde just stands there completely confused, not understanding what the hell just happened. A few hours after Kang defeated the Job Goblin, the situation in the city finally started to calm down. Of course, he accompanied his sister back home, but the streets looked like something out of an apocalyptic movie. It was already night when they finally arrived, but as soon as they opened the door, she asked if by chance he had forgotten to lock it. The whole place was destroyed. She looked around and said clearly nothing had matured. Both enter naturally, take off their sandals, without even thinking about the possibility that whatever entered might still be inside. But well, having an older sister has its advantages. She already had food waiting for him, so he simply sits down to devour it. She was on her cell phone, glancing at the screen, and tells Kang that all this is crazy. She asks him to look, and there's the video of him defeating the goblin. Kang takes the phone in shock. That's me. Who the hell recorded this and posted it without permission? The comments are varied. Some say it's incredible. The haters say it was too easy, that it was just a low-level goblin from the second stage. Still, the guy was clearly born to be an influencer. A few likes already have him all proud. His sister sees him once and says his face already gave him away. He tells him to stop talking about how ridiculously handsome he is, but then he looks at the comments again, and yes, many say his face looks more like a villain later. That night, he calls his sister saying he needs help. She asks what's wrong, and he tells her to turn off the lights. She's confused, but since he saved her life that day, she agrees. Although she warns him, he better not wake up screaming like a madman again. He gives a thumbs up and tells her to relax. This stage is going to be easy. While trying to sleep, he can't stop thinking about that blonde guy. He looked incredibly strong. How many stages has Kang already passed? He knows that if it weren't for his resurrection ability, he wouldn't have even passed the second stage. But none of that matters. Sooner or later, he's going to surpass the 8 stages. It's time to become the strongest. He turns over, remembering that damn succubus. Yes, she was kind of pretty even though she killed him, and he knows he's a monster. For some reason, he's excited to see her again. She appears to him, in a dream, smiling, ready to greet her. But when he opens his eyes, there's a goblin right in front of him, breathing on his face. He punches it in the face and sends it flying immediately. He starts wondering where that cool teenager from the previous dream went. But strangely this time, the mission is to clear a goblin cave and finish the dungeon cave. Goblins have poor eyesight but excellent hearing, and as always, if he fails, he dies. He's already surrounded. Wondering what's the big deal about the hearing, when the goblins approach, he lets out a dramatic scream. Why did the perfect mission disappear? And you know what, I agree with him. Where's that beautiful mission? Bring it back. The scene changes to a luxurious house in the city where the blonde guy is destroying people. A guy in a green hoodie, completely beaten, wants to know how someone who hasn't even entered the tutorial can be stronger than someone with real talent. The blonde steps on him and tells him to shut up. Stats don't change anything just because you have some extra points. Thinking about Kang's fight, he starts licking his lips, saying something interesting has appeared, and seriously, artists, why do they never draw this kind of stuff with a girl? Huh, why does it have to be? Stage 5. Round 3 looks like our guy died again. Now the mission is to kill a doppelganger, a monster that devours humans, steals their form, and hides among them. Honestly, the succubus thing was way more fun than this nightmare. At the same time, it's kind of like a mafia game. It's all about figuring out who's who, detecting lies. The key stat this time is wisdom, but Kang has already learned some skills regarding group dynamics. He takes a deep breath and shouts so everyone looks at him. The others turn silently. He coughs and says, the first one who moves is the culprit and is dead. And right there, our guy realizes he forgot something important. In mafia games, the one who talks the most is usually the first to die. And judging by the situation, he's already dead and didn't even realize it by now. It seems he just keeps waking up and going back to sleep. I'm not even watching the game anymore, and apparently, during stage 5, he got stuck there for more than a month and a half. A guy with glasses asks Yuna what she thinks, but wait, he's not a guy with glasses. He's our protagonist trying to look smart. She says she just got home from work and wants to know what the hell he's doing. He says he's trying to change who he is, starting with his appearance. He's died 53 times on that damn mission, and it was time to try something different. That damn system always says to use wisdom, but every mission is totally different, so he never really learns anything. His sister tells him the only way he's going to get smarter is with a brain transplant. Smarter with a brain transplant. He just collapses, defeated. She really hit him hard. Then he leaves, saying he's going to install some kind of soundproofing in his room because he can't take it anymore. Back at stage 5, use your wisdom to overcome obstacles. This time he appears inside a cave of the system, and he already knows he's going to make another stupid mess. But suddenly, something makes him smile and shout. Eureka! The mission is to complete the incubator rank dungeon Tarang, and the clue says that the Tarang protecting it is level 20, so he must find its weak point. And there is the huge, grotesque, disgusting spitter Tarang, but Kang is tired of these strategic missions. This was perfect. A direct task. Kill the monster and move on. It spits at him. He thinks it's a web and dodges to one side, but it turns out to be acid, and his whole arm starts melting. Still, the guy goes into full psychopath mode. He pierces it without hesitation, saying he's not going to die there, no way. Even without the arm, he charges again. He slides underneath and stabs upward into the monster's belly. Just as the system hinted, it had a weak point, and that cut splits it in two. He's soaked in blood, shouting that he doesn't care about weak points. He prefers to break the lock than use the key. And so without much difficulty, he completes stage 5. A shame. The Azukibo mission never returned. Now he's completely unhinged, shouting that only the weak need to be smart. For finishing, he's granted the rank S skill Titanic Strength that allows him to infuse mana into his muscles. And now he's level 25. The scene changes to classroom 322 at his school. Someone calls Minsu, saying it's the birthday strike day. But the boy replies, they better stay away. He's exhausted from that damn tutorial. His friend asks how stage 1 went, and he says it was horrible. Just like everyone said, he's surpassing it. However, the problem is there are no more tips for stage 5. His friend says he heard that if you manage to pass stage 4. You're already 1% superior. That's why everyone who completes it treats that information like pure gold. Suddenly, he sees a post. Someone had just finished stage 7 and was entering 8 left a tip. Stage 4 is about leadership, and the easiest way to win is making your team surrender to your power. Stage 5 is about wisdom, but the easiest way to win is brute force. Stage 3 is about strategy, and guess what? The easiest way to win, yes, again, force. Stage 7 is about dedication, and again, the quick way is to crush the enemy with blows. He's sitting there like, who the hell is this troll giving nonsense advice? Meanwhile, Kang is shouting that he's trying to give real advice to save lives, but no one believes him. His sister is beside him asking why he's shouting so much. The guy explains, I gave everyone advice. I wasn't nice. I explained exactly how to pass the tutorial, but no one believes me. His sister leaves laughing, telling him he shouldn't be giving advice to anyone. He's just wasting his time, he agrees, saying he'll soon complete stage 8 and be the first person in the nation to graduate from the tutorial. He'll be at the level of the Dangang Guild Master or the leader of the Skill Alliance Guild, but his sister keeps laughing, telling him he'll never be at the level of those who finish without dying even once. Meanwhile, he's been stuck in this for 4 months. He tells her to shut up. He completed stages 6 and 7 on the first try, and here we are friends. Welcome to the tutorial you have completed. Stage 7. Now it's time for the final battle in stage 8, the rewards from stage 6, were a rank B sword called Viljan that granted him the Berserker skill, and apparently it was bloodthirsty. Stage 7 gave him Ronald's armor, which came with auto-restoration. Our guy is excited. As soon as he finishes stage 8, he'll finally be able to use his inventory in the real world, which means he can finally check that item he got from the hobgoblin he killed. The system receives him, saying all it asks is that he takes less than a week to complete it, but then his expression changes. The system asks him what his personal principles are. He just stands there not knowing how to respond. Suddenly, the floor and ceiling start cracking out of nowhere. He falls into an abyss. It feels like he is diving into the void. When he opens his eyes, he is standing in the middle of a street. A woman walks toward him but passes through him as if he were a ghost. It is the first time he sees a city inside the tutorial. He wonders if it could be Earth, but then he sees a strange couple nearby and that confirms it. No one here is human. They are all brown creatures, bipedal with lizard-like appearances. They are so ugly he doesn't even want to look them in the eyes. Then he notices that one of them is still staring at him, or rather, looking at something behind him. When he turns around, he sees a mountain of monsters marching toward him. The mutant inhabitants of the town start running in pure panic while the creatures flood the street. Kang instantly recognizes some of the monsters. He has faced them before, but clearly there are others much stronger and bigger. This is on another level from any dungeon he has been in before. It feels like the end of the world has come to this place. Then he remembers the system said the connection with HACKEN would happen in 4 years and 364 days. He starts thinking, maybe this is what will happen on Earth when that moment arrives. Suddenly, his body is swallowed by a shadow. He looks back and sees a gigantic titan with a cosmic head towering over him. The monster extends its hand, and when it lowers to crush him, Kang doesn't even move. He simply stays there and is disintegrated. Then he is floating in a void. A voice asks him, so how did it feel facing him? A vague and invisible presence appears. Kang asks if it is some kind of god. The figure replies, not exactly. I am what you would call the administrator of this dimension. This stage was actually a personal interview with him. Kang could ask whatever he wanted, and the administrator would also ask him some questions. Kang immediately asks about that vision he saw. Is it really going to happen on Earth in 5 years? The administrator replies, that completely depends on what humanity chooses to do from now on. Kang says he doesn't understand if you are such a powerful entity. Why don't you just stop everything? The administrator answers, I am not a guardian. I only maintain the balance of things. The best I can do is assign missions, create the tutorial, things like that. But now it was the administrator's turn to ask a question. He wanted to know what Kang has lived for, and under what principles Kang lives. Kang says, that is a strange question, very deep. Why would he want to know something like that? The administrator responds that observing humans made him curious. All forms of intelligent life are fascinating, but humans stand out even more in comparison. Kang clearly does not agree with the way this supposed guardian talks about humans. He tells him he probably hasn't observed them enough. No one on his planet has the luxury to sit and think about things like that. Everyone is simply trying to survive, to grab a little happiness and keep going. Day after day, the administrator asks if that is what he wants to protect. Kang answers, yes, he wants to protect his sister even if it's useless, and also his parents. Basically, he fights for his family. The administrator asks, so you want to be a hero, Kang? He says he has died so many times that he knows perfectly well he is not made for that. There are people out there much stronger than him, so he doesn't stand a chance. The damn administrator agrees. He says that the talent to be a hero is something you are born with, and right now, Kang is much closer to being a nobody than a savior, but personally he says he likes Kang He loves seeing him go through every stage of the tutorial. That's when Kang realizes this guy is a sadist. He just sat back enjoying watching him die over and over, so Kang asks, what was the point of stage 5 being about wisdom, and why did it keep changing? Strangely, the administrator remains silent, then only says that time is up, that he really enjoyed the talk, and says goodbye to Kang. Immediately, a system message appears, you have completed. Stage 8, Kang is still confused, but the administrator reminds him, this was just a tutorial, the real challenges are only just beginning, and they will be much worse than anything you have faced so far. Whether he likes it or not, the administrator believes Kang has what it takes to become the hero who will save the Earth. Our guy starts yelling, swearing that something suspicious happened in stage 5. But the entity only congratulates him for completing everything, and then disappears. The system then announces, you are the 62nd person to complete the tutorial title, acquired tutorial graduate. I knew it was him messing with me in stage 5. That's what our guy says when he wakes up, full of rage. But this time they put something in his mouth. It turns out it was a dirty sock, and he asks if it was his crazy sister who did that. Of course, it was her still. He shouldn't keep yelling idiot just by looking at your face. I know you failed the exam again, says the damn girl. But look at this bastard's face. He immediately throws his hand to the side and opens his status window. His sister better watch closely, because now he is officially a graduate. The real business has just arrived. The damn girl just got up and said, how convenient, now it's time for me to leave the house and start making money. At least she could have congratulated our guy. No. Now he understands why she doesn't have a boyfriend. That's what he says. Just before she hits him with a stick in the face, it seems they already had breakfast, and she leaves, saying she'll be back. Soon, our guy stays staring at his little window tutorial graduate, the title for those who finish stage 8 that gives +2 to all attributes. It wasn't as impressive as he thought. On top of that, he already had the impatient title, but you can't equip 2 at the same time. The system explains that besides the main title, the others only grant 50% of their effect, so he equips the graduate title and puts the other as secondary. Now finally, the moment he was waiting for has arrived. The object that Goblin was carrying, a weird book, and he wants to find out what it really is. And it's Magical Explosion Rank E, a book that lets you learn that skill that releases magical energy, and curiously, he is celebrating super happy. In my head, this is trash, honestly, but well, the guy is humble. I'd say he's someone simple and down to earth. The system asks if he wants to learn the skill, and he accepts instantly. The book disappears from his hand, and now he's excited to start testing this new power. Meanwhile, in the city, a girl introduces herself as Mi Young, a new public official. Her first assignment is at the school that trains those who have awakened. It's where people go to get their certifications, and it was also one of the first places it was built. After everything went chaotic, she thinks she's going to work with the nation's heroes. Definitely seems like a worthy job. Obviously, some lunatic has to show up. The poor girl is trembling like a leaf, apologizing through tears. Kang is standing there like a monster while she begs him to show her the rest of her documentation. He tells her to speak louder. Asking what the problem is, she even raises a little sheet to defend herself, trying to understand why he treats her that way. The confused one is me. Why are you acting like that? That's what our guy says. Until someone nearby asks what's going on, the rest of the people around start recording, wondering why this guy is threatening the poor girl. He tries to explain he didn't do anything, but another person appears asking what all the commotion is. Milang calls the instructor Lee Park and asks for help. The blonde guy takes a look and sees our protagonist. At that moment, both feel like they have seen each other somewhere before. He asks for the sheet, and she hands it to him. The guy sees the name Kang and says the photo looks very different. Our guy explains, I woke up like this, so yes, my appearance changed. But I swear it's me. If you don't believe me, check my DNA or fingerprints. Whatever, I don't care. The guy notices he finished stage 5, and our guy confirms it. For some reason, he pretends to be a low-profile loser hiding his true power. That's why he set a lower level than he actually has, because no idea why. Then the guy says if Kang is at level 12, that's pretty high. For someone who only reached stage 5, looks like he illegally entered a few dungeons. Now everything starts to make sense. He shouldn't have that level. Not even close to reaching stage 8, nothing adds up, and apparently he lied, but they still suspect, so he lies a bit more, saying he entered a dungeon before it was illegal. Leah says he understands but wants to know more about that masculinity skill. What kind of skill is that supposed to be? Our guy says it's simple, it just doubles his strength. That's all. He accepts that explanation, but says he has one more question. Everyone receives a talent at stage 3, one accessory at stage 4, and some special skill or reward at stage 5. So he should list everything. Kang is already tired of this interrogation, but agrees. He bites his arm and immediately it starts to regenerate. Obviously, that's the skill he got, self-healing. He also shows the ring he has, the one that blocks mental attacks. But since he already lied about the skill, he continues, saying the ring gives him a power that allows him to scare everyone when he screams. The blonde guy tells him to use it to prove it. Then we see another blonde nearby, the one with the sides of his head shaved, simply observing while Kang takes a deep breath. This is the guy who seems to remember that whole incident with the goblin, and at that very second the trauma hits him, and he covers his ears immediately. Kang lets out a scream that shakes the whole room, and everyone covers their ears. Kang asks if he needs to prove anything else, and the guy says there's no way to doubt him after that. Holy God, just look at this guy's face. Artist, you need to calm down. I swear I'm going to find out your name and finish you. Our guy is sitting there all emotional, saying he was rejected at first because of his ID, but after that scream they accepted him immediately. Still, now that he's in the classroom, he's alone, and it seems like no one wants to approach him. The crazy guy who yelled at the receptionist and then screamed at someone else, that's what they call our guy now. He notices the atmosphere around him is getting weird, especially with that blonde. It's strange that he's staring at him the whole time. Lee enters the classroom, introduces himself, and says he's so in charge of that section, says it's a pleasure to meet you all, and the group gives him a polite applause for the next 10 days. They will study theory and do practice in the afternoons. All meals and lodging are covered. Anyone who doesn't cause trouble will get their certification without problems. Finally, he asks everyone to pay close attention. It's been half a year since the world changed, and even after 6 months, new information keeps coming in about dungeons and monsters. Tactics, strategies, and objectives are constantly evolving. What he's trying to say is that everything they are learning could change at any moment. Nothing is guaranteed. Our guy thinks this place is pure depression. The instructor continues, saying there may be outdated or simply the wrong information. That's why he will only teach what's necessary to survive. That was the message. He says he hopes to work with everyone during the next 10 days. Everyone starts to stand up while Kang is looking at the ceiling. It was super boring. He thought this would be an amazing academy where he would only receive his ID and he would leave, but it's not going to be horrible. Then the walking GigaChat arrives and approaches him, introducing himself as Waxuel. Our guy tries to figure out who this muscular guy is. He shakes his hand and Kang says his name. The guy smiles weirdly. The guac suddenly squeezes his hand hard and tells him that he's already screwed. He says if you want to lead in a place like this, you have to take down the arrogant from the start. He has hated this guy since that shout, but now he's the one who's confused. Kang is standing there calm as always, while the other is trembling, and suddenly, bam, our guy activates Titanic strength, increasing his muscle power by 12 points. For 10 minutes now, it's Guac who's sweating buckets, trying to understand how he's losing in a brute strength contest. Until now, he had put all his points into strength, so it shouldn't be possible. And worst of all, everyone is watching. The poor guy can't take it. They start making weird faces and bam, his arm explodes. What the hell? Blood flies everywhere, and the whole room is in shock. That strange blonde is just sitting there, like saying, can someone kill this crazy guy already? Please. A while later, they take the guy away in an ambulance. Kang says everyone is misunderstanding things. That musclehead came out of nowhere to shake my hand. Then suddenly his arm started swelling and exploded. That's all. Lee clearly doesn't believe him for a second, but our guy insists he's telling the truth. He only survived thanks to that ability that increases his strength 1.5 times, otherwise he would have gotten hurt too. Then when Lee notices something weird and asks him if his ability wasn't called masculine strength, our guy says yes, but the blonde reminds him he said before it doubled. It is strength, and now he's saying it's 1.5. Our protagonist gets all uncomfortable, saying he was wrong because he's bad with numbers. But yes, it's 1.5 or 2, one of those. The blonde just thinks this guy is going to be a headache. He says he understands and tells Kang to go back to class. Inside, Kang finally thinks he can relax when someone sits next to him. Of course, it's the damn blonde, again asking if he can sit close. Kang tells him to do whatever he wants, but in his mind he wonders why he keeps attracting muscular guys and now delinquents too. Out of nowhere, the guy grabs his hand and introduces himself as Yusung just turned 18 and is there after completing the tutorial. Now he's asking how Kang made that arm explode. When Kang asks what he's talking about, the crazy guy already says he wants to know how he managed to do that. It must be an incredible ability. The poor protagonist already knows this guy isn't right in the head either. A while later, Lee enters the classroom, apologizes for being late, and starts explaining that there are 2 types of dungeons, regular and irregular. The regular ones are the most common and collapse. After 4 weeks, collapse means that the monsters start coming out into the city. The irregular ones, on the other hand, can collapse at any time, sometimes in 4 weeks, sometimes instantly. To close a dungeon, there are 2 options. The first is to destroy the main core, which is very deep and hard to find. The second is to destroy the regular core, which only delays the collapse. Do I really need to know all this crap just to kill monsters? I didn't come here to get a useless class, says the muscular guy in the back. Our guy realizes that all the muscular guys in the place are walking problems, completely forgetting that he's also one of them, one of the guards. He intervenes and tells the guy to stop causing trouble or he'll be expelled, but Lee says it's okay and asks the guy to come to the front because it's time for a little lesson. The guy agrees, clearly impressed by how confident the instructor is. He spreads his arms and wants to know what Lee plans to do, but Lee tells him he'll give him a minute. During that time, he's going to dodge and block all his attacks, and if he manages, even scratching him once, he will be able to graduate, but if he fails, he will be expelled. Yuzong and our guy are watching from the side, wondering if this guy really has what it takes to accept something like this at the same time. They are somewhat excited. It looks like this is going to get interesting. The muscular guy immediately says that clearly they are underestimating him. He draws his sword and warns Lee not to regret it. The guard panics, saying, "Sir, please," but the guy really draws a real sword. Lee calmly adjusts his glasses and tells him to come. The secondary character loses his head instantly and lunges forward, but Lee easily dodges the first blow and tells him that kind of attack is too predictable. Even if he attacked from behind, such a careless strike wouldn't hit anyone. Looks like we have another gym fanatic about to burst a vein. He attacks again, but only cuts the air. Lee appears behind him and says the problem is that his movements are too wide. No opponent will just stand there, waiting to receive a blow like that. And it's true, the guy keeps swinging the sword like crazy from side to side, giving it his all, but Lee dodges smoothly, as if nothing. Now the guy is red like a drunk and charges head-on, only for Lee to duck again, and then Lee says calmly that at this rate, he's going to fall quickly. A firm kick makes him drop the sword and throws him to the ground. Then Lee takes out his phone and shows that the minute is already up. Actually, it shows 1 minute and 28 seconds. I saw it, Kang. They remember those videos of professional boxers dodging all the punches. He never imagined someone could do something like that to an awakened person. Now it's clear there is a huge difference between people's talents and abilities. Seeing that speed and reaction time, Kang realizes that even after all the time he spent stuck in the tutorial, he would probably struggle to face this guy. He closes his eyes and wonders if in a one-on-one, who would win. It's the same thing that damn blonde Yuzun is thinking. Look at him again with that face. Hold your tongue already. What the hell is that? Kang also notices and starts wondering if this guy is crazy. Clearly, he's already regretting letting that lunatic sit next to him at the school for the awakened mornings, or for theory, and afternoons for practical training. He tells them that today they will train their skills. Using every type of weapon, they must go to the front and choose their favorite. At first, they can practice however they want, and then he will watch them and give advice based on what they are doing. Kang grabs a sword and notices immediately that it's all rusty, and immediately that weird blonde says that just swinging a sword in the air is too boring. Why don't they have a little practice fight instead? Of course, our guy accepts instantly. Thank God, Lee refuses, saying they will only be allowed to practice like that after the 6th day. Phew, the artist would have had all the excuses to redraw that weirdo with his tongue out. Honestly, the apocalypse could start right now with a goblin invasion. If that meant skipping that scene, it would be great. Under the scorching sun, everyone is scattered, shaken by the wind. Our guy watches from the side, somewhat surprised by how bad everyone is. The average level is much lower than expected. He didn't plan to train, but maybe this will help, at least as a good warm-up. So he takes the sword and starts practicing. Cuts to the left and right, just polishing his form. Lee looks at him sideways, sees the guy is trying hard with the cuts, and tells him that's not how you fight one of the guards. Approaches and tells him he leaves his defense too exposed, that he needs to adjust the angle of the sword. Maybe he tries to show off with those flashy moves, but they are useless in a real fight. Our guy is not happy at all. He is already thinking about killing this guy. Of course, he only thinks that because he is immortal. No, it doesn't matter if they destroy him, he can reappear. The next day, the guard tells him that if he tries that fancy fencing inside a dungeon, he's going to end up dead. But Kang grabs him by the neck and asks if he wants to fight right now. Well, maybe he didn't really do it, or maybe he did. Actually, what happens is he backs down and says, "All right, I'll keep that in mind." Then Lee claps and calls Sun. Han, the same guard, and catches everyone's attention, says that Kang Hyun and the assistant will now do a demonstration. Kang obviously is confused why it had to be him. Lee gives a sword to the instructor and tells him to use the technique he asked Kang to show before, and obviously our guy can fight however he wants. It's clear now that Lee discovered Kang is the real one and wants the assistant to learn it the hard way. Poor assistant is lost there, but Lee just tells him, "Come on, start the countdown, 1, 2, 3. Our guy charges Kang. He lunges and hits him hard right away. Unbalancing him, changes the angle mid-move, makes the sword fly out of his hands and leaves him disarmed. The assistant is already on the ground, 2 hits. He didn't even try to hurt him, he just disarmed him cleanly. What a humiliation. The instructor addresses the group and says they must train with skills that prepare them for real combat. They must develop reflexes to respond immediately to threats. Just as Kang showed, the most important thing is how you react and start your moves. There is no perfect stance, nothing is absolute. I ask for a round of applause for everyone. While poor assistant is red as a tomato, they made him look ridiculous. Kang is there proud, But the damn guy didn't understand anything the instructor said. He just acted on pure instinct. The instructor approaches the assistant and apologizes, saying it wasn't his intention for him to get hit like that. The guy gets up and says it's okay, he still learned something new. Although yes, it definitely surprised him. The instructor tells him not to feel ashamed, he just wanted to confirm something. That damn bastard used Kang's fighting spirit to expose his secrets. And so begins the next chapter, My Dear Training Diary, written by Kang Hyun. The first day a guy rubbed him the wrong way, so he blew his arm off. And the rest of the class was super boring. The second day wasn't much better. They trained with some weapons, and Yuzin seemed to enjoy it way too much, honestly. I probably should start avoiding that weirdo. On the third day, he realized that this strange guy was the only one really willing to talk to him and was like a mosquito that wouldn't stop bothering him. By the fourth day, he was so bored he spent all the time drawing himself, cutting off a goblin's head. Day 5, all he wanted was to go home. It was too boring. He even collapsed on the floor in the middle of training, completely fed up. Day 6 arrives and there he is with his face on the desk. He tells Yusung, come on, start a fight or something. To do whatever it takes to get kicked out and make this interesting, but Yusung wants to know why it wasn't him who said they were going to go unnoticed and graduate quietly. Our guy answers, I'm telling you to cause a mess. If you get kicked out, it's your problem. I'm fine, but Yuzun tells him to relax. It's day 6 after all. They're finally going to have real fights today, so something good is about to happen. He has one sixth sense for these things a little later. During training, a guy gets hit on the hand. He drops his sword and collapses. The instructor announces that Kang Hyun is the winner and calls the next group while Kang returns to his seat. Yusun says he's really impressed. Kang fights very well, but our guy just shrugs and says it was because his opponent was as weak as a demon. Even so, while watching the other students, he begins to wonder what this strange feeling is. Everything seems like child's play to him. The average level is much lower than he expected. He doesn't fully understand each person's talent, but it seems most don't get very far in levels. The worst part is he knows he'll have to fight 2 more battles before day 8, and they're all equally boring. 2 hits, and it's over. On the stage, a guy charges with a spear, while the other just screams like crazy, and Kang there, almost uninterested. Damn, this guy really aimed the spear straight at the other's forehead. Luckily, the instructor stopped him in time and ended the fight, declaring the winner, Kim Chang-guk. Seeing how fast the instructor reacted, Kang is now excited to fight someone like him. That's when they call Yuzun's name. He turns to Kang and says he's up now. Curiously, he gives a strange little smile and walks calmly toward the platform. Kang remembers that this guy had said something interesting was going to happen today. He just hopes nothing starts that drags him in too. At least the instructor is right there, so technically nothing should happen. But then, oh wow, the girl goes up, and instead of using a weapon, she pulls out some kind of magic staff. Yes, it has its pros and cons, but in such a small space, it doesn't seem like the best choice. The instructor asks, your weapon used to be a sword. Why are you using a spiked mace now? Yuzun simply replies, is there a rule that says I can't change? The instructor says it's fine. He starts to get nervous, thinking this guy could really crack his head open. While she gets distracted, the instructor starts the count. 1, 2, 3. The girl summons some crystal shards and throws them at him. His mace starts glowing purple and just like that destroys the attack without problem. He's smiling with that unsettling smile while Kang watches fascinated. It's the first time he's seen real magic in action. Apparently, you could learn that during the tutorial. How strange. He never saw anything like that in martial training. Could the girl have been hiding her abilities all this time? She is clearly forcing herself, gripping the staff tightly and activating something, but everything feels loose and strange. At least it's unique. She launches another big crystal attack, but Yusong glances at the instructor, raises the mace, as if to block, but instead steps aside and lunges straight at her. Kang is really surprised by what he's seeing. He thought he was going to smash her face with that, but it turns out he used the mace to deflect her attack and redirect it toward the instructor. Of course, the instructor dodges it easily. Meanwhile, Yusung lunges and hits him in the middle of the head. Holy hell, he really hit him that hard and now he's there celebrating. Folks, I told you. I didn't say he was going to go crazy, but the guy is practically soaked in blood, smiling like he's proud. Kang should stay away from this lunatic or take him down seriously for everyone's safety. Luckily, someone is already calling an ambulance and saying it's a hand fracture. I don't even know why I care so much about this girl, but please don't kill her. I mean it, Blondie, you better not do it. I just don't like this guy, that's all. The instructor immediately points his huge sword at Yuzun's face and demands to know what the hell that was. Obviously, this blood-covered lunatic just says it was an accident. Oops, sorry, my fault, totally didn't mean to. The instructor asks if he even hears himself talk. Yuzun replies yes and gives him a cheeky wink. The instructor turns around and announces they'll take a 20-minute break. Everyone must be back by 3 o'clock sharp, and that Yuzun should follow him from a distance. And that Yuzun follows him from afar. Kang is watching all this and has that expression as if he recognized that strange sparkle in the blonde's eyes even after what just happened. This poor girl shattered. The training continues as if nothing happened for 2 more days. And no, Yusung was not expelled. He simply kept training as if everything was completely normal. The only difference is that the poor guy who had to face him afterwards seemed like he was going to soil himself just for being there. Kang even noticed that there was a healer already placed behind that guy just in case. Thanks to that, the day ended without anything serious, or at least it should have been that way. Here is our guy 500 kilos of muscle calling Ali and saying, "Hey, training is almost over." Wouldn't this be the perfect moment to have a real sword fight? The instructor tells him to stop bothering him, that they only have to wait 2 more days, and everything will be over, but Kang, always curious, asks if he's not getting tired of all these little games. He could tell that. Lee must also be anxious for a real fight. Kang is sure that sitting there reading papers and doing administrative work doesn't suit him at all. So he leans in and says he knows they've met before, and that clearly hit a nerve. The instructor loses his composure. Later on the training field, Lee says, "Now everything makes sense." So it was him from before. He thanks Kang for the help at that moment, since apparently he avoided a lot of casualties. Kang is relieved that the guy didn't mention the object he took and escaped with. Then Lee casually comments that, for someone who only reached Phase 5, he has a pretty good sword. Wait, what kind of comment is that flattering? His sword. And he knows that blade only appears in Phase 6. Kang brushes him off, saying he found it lying on the ground, the same excuse as always. Lee opens the system and says, "All right, I can see. You're not going to be honest, no matter what I ask you." Then he draws his sword and says, in that case, he will also fight with something he casually found. And then boom, the guy disappears. A second later, he's already behind our muscular guy Kang. Spins barely reacting in time to block the attack. The guy moved like a damn ghost. Lee congratulates him, saying he thought Kang was just a brute, but his reflexes are also impressive. Our guy replies, he's been through too much in life to get caught so easily again. The damn instructor disappears again and says, in that case, there's no reason to hold back. The guy uses that ghost technique, attacking from all angles, but Kang keeps him at bay. Lee is impressed. Can't believe this guy fresh out of the tutorial is keeping up with him. Kang, on his part, is covered in cuts all over and still murmurs this. This is what a real fight feels like. Honestly, it scares me. To think how he'll look in 15 more chapters. He'll be 7 meters tall, weigh 700 kilos of muscle, and have the face of a cold-blooded killer. And the instructor is still surprised the boy's regeneration was as crazy as it seemed. Lee changes his sword grip and says in that case he no longer needs to hold back. He launches a frontal attack, saying he's about to create an opening, impossible to dodge. Kang sees it coming and smiles. He blocks it by throwing his own arm against the blade. Lee can't believe it. He feels the boy's forearm bones crunching while this psychopath just smiles at him. Then Kang lets go. "I got you." He grabs him, squeezes the sword with the bone, and headbutts him. Brutally, Lee loses balance and falls. Yes, he really lost, but well, no one was going to beat that crazy guy anyway. A while later, Lee is sitting with an ice pack on his face, drinking a soda, saying that Kang is really weird, too strong. Kang replies that Lee is also pretty strong. Besides, in a training fight like this, you're not supposed to use your abilities directly, although technically, Lee did. Lee says that in that case he is obviously the winner. Kang does not agree. They go back and forth until finally, Lee gets up, thanks him, and says it was a great fight to vent. Now he's going back to his room to sleep well, because tomorrow is dungeon day, and apparently there is already a hooded figure planning to cause trouble. Right in the dungeon they are heading to. The guy turns invisible, opens the door, and sneaks inside. The next day they are standing right in front of that same door. The dungeon is being used as a training ground for the academy. That's what the instructor says. It's an F-rank zone called the Kika Forest, and surprise B Forest bit is the monsters here are called Keka monsters, medium-level F-rank creatures. This place was chosen because first, it has no major traps, and the monsters follow a pretty standard pattern. Second, the Keka monsters don't form groups, so you can face them one-on-one, which is much safer for beginners. The rest of the details will be explained inside. The door opens and Kang is excited. It's his first dungeon since he returned to the real world. He had never gone through one of those doors before. Curiously, the feeling when crossing it is like floating. Your vision blurs for a second, and the moment your feet touch solid ground again, you open your eyes and you're in a place completely different. Kang stands there amazed by the island. He asks how they are supposed to get back. Of course, Yusung immediately answers that was already explained in class. And obviously, our guy didn't listen to a single lesson. Lee intervenes and says first they will hunt and a monster together so everyone can see how it's done. Then they will split into groups and start the real hunt. He calls one of the instructors and asks him to lure a couple of Kikas. They are moving to a good combat zone, and Lee says he will keep explaining. Once they are in the middle of the action, the Kekkas look like large birds. They are known for their fast legs and extremely hard beaks, sharp enough to pierce metal. The standard strategy is to surround them so they don't know which way to run, but just then a system message appears. The main core has been destroyed. The exit portal has opened. If this dungeon is about to collapse, everyone must evacuate. The whole place starts cracking, and Lee tells everyone to stay calm and head toward the exit since the place is about to collapse. They had enough time, so there was no reason to panic. Outside, everyone is gathered, clearly confused. They came to train. So what the hell just happened? Lee does a quick count and sees that apparently everyone got out safely, but what he really wants to know is who the hell completed that dungeon. Then one of the instructors suddenly calls him. When he looks at the dungeon door, now it emits a dark and sinister light. Like some kind of portal, the instructor's expression changes immediately and he orders reinforcements. Besides telling all the apprentices to stay away from the door, it wasn't just a collapse. This was a portal break. Kang asks what that means, and the guy is already thanking God he's there. He tells him a whole horde of monsters is about to come out and they will need his help to face them. Clearly, our guy is ridiculously uninformed. He didn't even know what a portal break was. It turns out someone destroyed the main core without killing the monsters. So now all the creatures are being forced out of the dungeon. The instructor asks Kang if he really didn't learn this in class. Kang replies, of course he did. He was just testing him to see if he knew. The instructor tells him to stop the nonsense, especially since the monsters are already here. At that moment, the first Kekka appears. The instructor lunges, telling Kang good luck, hope you can handle this, and runs to prepare the rest of the group. Now our guy is there. Looking at a horde of creatures, he thinks, how the hell am I going to deal with all this alone? Still, he smiles excitedly, shouting at them to come for him. It is then when I am appears, crushing the first one's skull with his mace. Thank God he wasn't drooling or blushing. At that moment, honestly, that's already a victory. Kang asks, what's wrong with this lunatic, laughing like the Joker himself, out of nowhere. And of course, just because I said it, there he goes again, tongue out, blushing, saying crushing a skull with a mace is the best feeling in the world. I have the same face as Kang. Now discuss horror, completely fed up. The blonde psychopath jumps into the middle of the battlefield, shouting he's not going to keep the fun all to himself. Kang draws his sword and says, well, at least the maniac is on my side, and throws himself into the fray, cutting monsters left and right. Yusun watches impressed. Our guy shouts that out there no one has his back. He fights alone, and then activates Lion's Roar, calling all the bastards. Suddenly, all the monsters in the area suffer a drop in their stats and morale. Debuff activated. Everyone seems to notice that suddenly the fight became a little easier, and of course the always attentive instructor realizes immediately it was a debuff aura. Seeing that the group held their position, he thought they would hold out until reinforcements arrived. The only problem now, Kang doesn't faint. He's right there in Rasengan style, making enemies explode with a punch, but that destroys his whole hand. What the hell is this, he murmurs. I guess it's usable for someone like me. Basically, he's immortal, so it works for him, but for anyone else, it would be completely unfeasible. Jason wants to know instantly what skill that is, and if Kang got something special in the tutorial, Kang just tells him it's a little secret. But just then, his expression changes in the middle of all those monsters. A mutant Quecca appears. Clearly, the dungeon boss. This was exactly what Lee didn't want to happen. The boss appearing before the support arrived, terrible moment. Even with Kang there, this wasn't going to be like fighting normal monsters. A fight against a boss was another story. Look at the two, Kang and Yuzong, and he's sure they won't make it, but then he sees their faces, and now Kang, for some incomprehensible reason, starts sticking out his tongue, save that for God's sake. The next chapter begins saying, tomorrow is the day of the celebration. They finished everything. Someone mentions the incident in the dungeon, and Lee explains that apparently someone had entered the gate before them, which caused the rupture. Most likely it was the work of those dungeon terrorists that have been appearing during the last month. Now, it seems a girl is speaking. Besides the protagonist's sister, women are clearly scarce in this world. She asks if any students stood out. Lee answers yes, 2 rare ones. The 2 worked together to defeat the rupture boss. One of them had absolutely insane physical strength. His power and reflexes were on par with that monster. But the strangest thing about him was his regeneration. He was unusually aggressive and had no fear of wounds. Plus, he never seemed to get tired. His fighting style was completely unpredictable, which made him hard to handle. He simply didn't care about anything. The other student was the complete opposite, more of the genotypical type, a natural talent for combat, quick thinker, sharp reflexes. The only problem was his unusual tendency to violence. The woman comments that putting all that aside, it's rare to see him give so many compliments. She asks if he already sent them a recruitment offer. He reminds her that recruiting students at this stage is strictly prohibited. She seems about to complain, but he interrupts her, saying he's just following the rules, just like the guild leader, and that would be her. Han has been the guild leader. Damgen has that yandere look in her eyes, and for some reason, she doesn't seem like the guild master. more mentally stable, although realistically, no one in this story seems particularly sane. Cut to the graduation ceremony. An old man gives a speech congratulating them for the 10 days they spent training and becoming full-fledged hunters. That marks their official entry into the hunter wall. Kang is surprised to see there is another person working here besides Lee. As soon as he leaves, he is startled, because the damn butler appears to notify Yu Sung that his car has arrived, and this lunatic drives a BM, apparently covered in diamonds. Our guy stands there, stunned that this guy is really loaded with money. Yu Sung casually tells him to get in, he'll take him home. Kang simply accepts and starts to get in until someone calls him. It's Lee who wants to talk. Kang points at him like a kid, saying he didn't know he could be so friendly. Lee explains that since they helped defeat the Rift boss in the dungeon, both will receive a reward. Someone will contact them soon, so keep that in mind. Kang, he seems a bit disappointed. He thought he would say more, but Lee turns around and leaves. Kang yells at him to properly praise him. Then the blonde turns around and gives his speech. It admits Kang is strong and will keep getting stronger. He wouldn't be surprised to start seeing his name in dungeon reports everywhere. But he must never forget the responsibility that comes with strength. Now, he was a true awakened, and why the hell was he wearing that weird thing on his face? While walking through the hall, he tells his sister to take a look at the boy who has huge potential. She obviously doesn't care. He tells her to stop underestimating him, because starting tomorrow, Kang will be clearing dungeon after dungeon. Then Kang stops and wonders how they are supposed to find the dungeons. Are they on Google Maps or something? His sister tells him there is a site for Awakened called Raiders where you can see that kind of stuff. He grabs the phone, saying he had never heard of it. She must be quite the expert. She just wonders how her brother can get dumber every day. At least when he stayed in his room playing, he seemed a bit smarter. While checking the app, our guy sees information about maps, monsters, and team recruitment. He remembers that Kika Forest was an F-rank dungeon, and something like that he could handle easily. Maybe it was the perfect time to make good money and show off in front of his mother. On TV, they mentioned that the reward for clearing low-level dungeons can reach $20,000, and now there was a new trendy item. Mana stones that were attracting a lot of attention and gave extra payouts. Basically, if you were a hunter, making money wasn't that hard. Cut to an older familiar man, our guy's father, who calls his wife to ask if she talked to their son. She says yes. She transferred $10,000 for him to spend as he wished. Apparently, he even bought a car last week. Seems time has passed, huh? The father is impressed. Finally, the boy earns more than him, but the mother is still worried. She knows many people get hurt or worse in this job. She just hopes nothing happens to him. The father says to let him live his life better than being an unemployed adult doing nothing. Besides, he heard that hunters go in groups, even in teams, so he's sure there's nothing to worry about. His son wouldn't do anything reckless. Surely he has everything under control. Interestingly, the mother agrees, says he has always been a bright boy, obviously. They haven't seen what their son has become in these last 18 chapters. He's in a dungeon completely alone, cutting down everything that moves, saying this is nothing, laughing like the Joker in a cave. Outside his new car, a Bentley calls his mother, but she doesn't answer. The father says it doesn't matter, he'll try again in the morning. The mother says it's okay, but she wanted to mention something, that strange door that opened in front of the grocery store. The father says not to worry. The government will send someone soon. She thinks maybe they should ask their son to come with his team. The father dismisses it immediately, definitely not a good idea. Meanwhile, guess what happens? Yes, that dungeon door is opening, and a swarm of orcs starts coming out, and of course, the boss is right there with them. Back with our protagonist, Dawn breaks, and he just cleared another more. He spent the whole night fighting now. He wonders if he should try one more, maybe, rank E, or if it would be pushing too hard. He decides to take a break. Besides, he still doesn't know if resurrection works in real life. After all, he already died once, but as soon as he opens his car and checks his phone, he sees 36 missed calls from his sister. He calls her asking what happened, and all he hears are screams. She says something about their mother and father. We don't hear exactly what, but from her expression, it's something bad, very bad in the news. They say the government is doing everything possible in response to the dungeon break. The National Defense Ministry is forming a special force to minimize casualties. The problem, some civilians were still trapped inside the affected area. That's why they had to call the Domgang Guild. Meanwhile, our guy arrives home. He puts on his armor and leaves. His sister asks if he's really going to do this. He tells her not to worry, that he's Kang Hyun, a tutorial graduate. To relax, he'll take care of everything. She asks him to be careful and to stop acting like a spoiled brat, seeking attention. He just replies, "Don't worry." He makes a farewell gesture, slams the door shut, and tells her he'll be back soon with mom and dad, then steps on the accelerator on the highway with a serious face. Ready for war. On the way, the police try to stop him, telling him he can't go any further and must turn around. He just shows them that shiny ID card. Now he's an awakened, registered, and so the beast passes. Without further ado, The officer tells him to be careful, Kang. He salutes militarily and accelerates as he moves forward. He murmurs that it seems like 5 portal breaks happened at the same time. Even more rank E-Moras were already collapsing. Before it had only been rank F1s, he just needed them to hold out until he arrived. The problem was he wasn't sure he could get there in time. Suddenly, a mutant boar bursts out of nowhere, rams a nearby car and sends it flying. What the hell, Kang? Comes out of the wreckage like nothing, draws his sword and tells the bastard to come. Because today is his day of revenge, but the monster snorts and Kang realizes it's much bigger than any creature he's seen before. At that moment, he hears screams at the end of the street, looks and sees a horde of goblins. He wonders if in a past life he killed the Goblin King. Because those damn things show up every time he's nearby. So he starts running, saying, there's a saying, the best revenge is forgiveness. Of course the boar chases him, but curiously the goblins start shooting arrows at the boar. Kang cheers. If those idiots want to fight, let them fight each other. Apparently monster races are hostile to each other. The problem is, it's getting dark. He wonders how long he's been in this forest. He left the dungeon in the morning, which means he's been here for hours. His battery is running low. He can't use the flashlight, and it's getting harder to find the right path. Again, he feels something approaching from behind, and now when he turns, swings the sword and cuts a wolf. Thank God it was just a wolf, although honestly, if it had been a person, she would be dead. Realizes that he was attacked, and that he only hit him out of pure instinct. Then he feels more movement on the sides. He is surrounded again. That the boy save his parents. Damn it, at least now he is trained. He draws his sword and destroys everything around him, and now he is fully involved. He yells for everyone to come to bring everything. The next morning he is still in the forest. Waking up in a pool of wolf blood, he fought all night. Until dawn, and only now can he breathe. But it's time to keep moving. At his parents' house they try to contact him. His mother writes to him. While the father asks him to be quiet, he asks if Kang still hasn't responded. She says it's strange the sister had told her he was on his way. But now it seems too risky. The father, who before said everything was fine, no longer sounds so sure. Those monsters, orcs they call them, have been appearing since yesterday. And apparently even high-level hunters are having trouble with them. The news says they came out of an F-rank dungeon, supposedly weak. But clearly that's not the case. And there's another thing. A terrifying figure out there in the streets. A monster that kills monsters. The father looks out the window, squinting at that lonely figure, and murmurs, there's no way my son is doing that. Oh, you'll see. When you find out our boy had turned that whole street into a war zone, 15 orcs were easy for him to handle alone, but more were rounding the corner, and curiously, these weren't normal. There were 3 warrior-class orcs. As far as he knew, those were supposed to be bosses, maybe in reality. This was an E-rank dungeon, not like he thought. Suddenly, he yells, calling his mom and dad. His son had come to save them. His mother looks at the figure, squinting, wondering if that thing was really her son. And the father is there like, what the hell happened in the last few months? But Kang is already running forward. The orcs are shouting. He lunges, blocks the first attack. Another stabs him, but he ducks and breaks the monster's jaw. With a single blow, one less, grabs another's sword, but just then he gets punched, breaking his bone. But this boy is unstoppable. He has died so many times that now he just keeps going. Stabs another monster, throws him through the air like nothing. Another falls and literally makes him eat his fist. Then boom. He activates a mana explosion inside the creature's skull, and yes, it was expected. But still, total massacre, and now he is completely surrounded. There must be about 200. Brother, where are the awakened hunters from South Korea? Now hello. Of course, in the middle of all that, one of them stomps the ground so hard, everything shakes. Kang looks up and damn, that is huge. A great orc warrior. Well, at least the name fits. Our boy immediately knows that is the pack leader, and he is ugly. Kang wanted to save his pack to regenerate, but it's time to unleash titanic strength. His muscles tense, he inhales deeply, and then roars. Lion Roar activated, calls all those bastards to come at him, and immediately they hit him in the face and he falls like an idiot. Apparently they surrounded him like in a Fight Club circle. Pushing him one-on-one, he realizes these monsters are actually playing with him. They take turns, punch to the face, kick to the stomach, hit against the ground. The worst part, his mana is gone. His body no longer regenerates, and he's still not entirely sure he really resurrects in real life, but he's not in the mood to find out. So he stands up, no teeth in his mouth, blood everywhere, and roars. I'm not going to leave my family here. Charges again, but then he sees them. Goblins climbing into his parents' window. He freezes for a second and yells, don't even think about climbing up there. He runs toward them, but they grab him from behind, knocks down another, but the bigger orc hits him. His head against the ground, his vision fades, and he murmurs, he can't die here, and then a golden slice pierces the monster. Someone has arrived, and it's a beast. She is our new guild leader, Hanseong, all brutal and beautiful. She turns, and someone informs her that her team just secured the safe zone. She asks about the civilians, and the guy says most have already been evacuated. She is a bit affected, The damage is worse than expected, but at least someone managed to gather all the orcs in one place and make the job easier. Then she asks where the guy is, who was holding them back until we arrived. The guy replies, unfortunately, he didn't make it. She feels and says, I understand, don't discard any body. Treat him with respect, he is a hero. Then she looks down and the body is no longer there. Cut to Kang opening his eyes, where we don't know. End of chapter, then there he is. Our boy lying under the same tree where he last slept. Resurrection activated, he barely escaped the crisis, since he hadn't set a respawn point. He appeared in the last place he had rested, but now for the next 24 hours he is at 50% strength and lost a level, which means he lost an attribute point. Immediately, his memory returns to the goblin near his parents' window. 24 hours have passed, he grabs his sword and runs, saying he has to find out what happened. Or at least kill those monsters. The problem is his body feels very heavy. That is the cost of resurrection after 5 hours of running with that exhausted body. He arrives only to find his parents' house abandoned and empty. He is devastated. He turns around and starts heading back home. On the way, he meets a group of soldiers. He borrows a phone. When he finally calls back, he discovers his father lost an arm and his mother is in a coma. Then 2 months pass. In the news, they announce that Han Seong guild leader Dangan has entered another dungeon, this time rank C. Exactly at the same time, Kang is seen leaving his sister, asks if he really is going into another one. Dungeon? He replies yes, he is going again. She tells him to be more careful. It seems he has died 3 times just this week. While she tries to tell him what happened wasn't his fault, he just closes the door and goes downstairs. She opens the door and stands there looking at her brother, not knowing what to say anymore. Meanwhile, in the dungeon known as Antria, a blonde guy is smashing giant ants and leveling up quickly. The others in his group congratulate him, saying he levels up like crazy. No surprise, he is the strongest in the group, but this guy inside feels superior, thinking these fools have no idea he is part of the elite, someone who reached phase 5. Unlike all these losers, still, he acts friendly. He turns with a smile and says, "It's all thanks to you. I couldn't have done it without such an amazing team." Yes, quite a character. At that moment, everyone hears something strange. They look to one side and see Kang with his half-broken sword running like crazy. Everyone thinks this lunatic is going into the dungeon alone. He passes them at full speed. The blonde yells that the core is that way and it's suicide. Kang doesn't even respond now. The group debates whether to follow him. Their leader says they will follow for now. If something goes wrong, they will retreat immediately and leave him to his fate. Kang is already surrounded by a tide of Antria. Soldiers, basically armored giant ants. He activates a skill called Wayne's Secret Technique, a ranky skill that increases all attributes by 40% except mana, but with the disadvantage of physically destroying the body over time with the classic berserker move. Wow, the ants surround him, but Kang smiles like a maniac, cutting everything in his path. In seconds, it's all a pile of corpses. The group from behind is totally in shock. Kang walks toward the core, commenting that this newly acquired skill perfectly combines with his regeneration. It turns out he recently improved his recovery to rank someone. Shouts at him. It's the blonde asking if Kang is okay. He simply answers yes and keeps walking, says nothing else, just grabs the core and says, "See you." Before leaving, the team finds him. Strange. He didn't take any loot from the monsters they start collecting. Thinking he's an idiot who doesn't understand money, but Kang keeps walking, murmuring that he doesn't have time to worry about those things. What he needs is strength. He leaves, and the group stays there confused, trying to figure out who that crazy guy was. The blonde shrugs and says he doesn't care, that thanks to him, they got rich, and that's enough. When they leave, the bald guy comments maybe it's him, the one they talk about, the one who robs more girls. Only the blonde laughs. No way, that's just a rumor. And this is a ranky dungeon, not an F for a stroll. No one does this solo, not even Han Seong, and she is the strongest right now. But just then, system message. The core has been removed. The portal is now open. Of course, Kang had already cleared the whole place. Now he's sitting on the corpse of a giant ant, flipping through a book he found in Tegument of Antria, a rank F skill book that teaches how to use the Tegument, a kind of hardened skin, basically body armor mode. The problem with Kang is that managing all these active skills constantly is becoming difficult. Adding another that must be kept on would be useless. More skills weren't making it better. They were just overloading him, just like Viljan's sword and the berserker skill. This one was also a waste for someone with such absurd regeneration, especially because last time he went crazy, he lost control and almost died. But it's not time for regrets. The only thing he can do is get stronger. No matter the cost, no better options, simply. He learns the skill outside the dungeon. A couple of reporters are gathered, talking about rumors of a man who clears dungeons alone, and it was said he entered that one today. The blonde kid tells them he's nobody from his group and then points out the monster was coming out. Kang crosses the door with an attitude, totally carefree, one hand on his neck, looking like he didn't sleep enough. Clearly, he didn't want to attract attention, but boom, in a second, He's surrounded by reporters, cameras, questions flying from all angles, and business cards shoved in his face. He simply walks. Amid the chaos, when he bumps into a guy, the man says, "Hey, what was that?" Kang just stares at him and replies, "What are you going to do about it?" The guy panics instantly and apologizes, and so our guy leaves, leaving everyone with the feeling that if they even breathe wrong, they'd die right there. He reaches his car, opens the door, murmuring that these people waste his time for nothing. Then someone calls him by name. He turns around another one. The guy calmly says, "Relax. I'm here to help you." He hands him a card. The name says Seon Yeonjo from the Awakened Association. He tells Kang they've been watching him for a while, and that if he ever wants to join, he'd have access to all their resources. "You don't have to answer now. Call whenever you want." He thanks politely and disappears before Kang can say a word. The Awakened Association is different from guilds. They're not obsessed with money. They focus on recruiting talent and national defense. Kang didn't even know they recruited like that. And honestly, seeing him eat that instant ramen made me want some too. While he eats, a woman tells her daughter not to get close and whispers, "That man is a monster," but Kang is focused. His biggest problem now is the mana to maintain regeneration. Wayne's technique in Berserker mode at the same time was becoming impossible. He had to rotate them, and it was already becoming inefficient. After researching online, he knows what he needs. An item that restores mana, checks the market, but finds nothing really useful. It seems he can only equip 4 items with active effects, regardless of the type, and he is not looking for a weak item that only adds +1 or +2 to his stats. He needs something good, something that lasts. That's when he sees a post with 128 views from someone claiming to have information about a dungeon that drops a ring that increases magic power. The next day, he reads the follow-up comment from the guy. Apparently, it's an E-ranked dungeon called Goblin Village. Located in Hangumbro, this artist really has a fixation with goblins. The post says the shamans in the area have a small chance to drop the ring. It normally gives +1 or +2 magic power, but there's a rare version that gives +4, and it's rumored that if you kill the great shaman, the dungeon boss, you might get something even better, but there's no certainty. Many people are farming there, but the author fears a dungeon break, so he shared the info hoping someone would complete it soon. Kang arrives at the place, but the door looks abandoned. He expected to see guards or a line, since there were supposed to be so many people farming there, but no, there's no one. He shrugs, opens the door and enters. On the other side, he finds what looks like a forest and immediately runs into the troublesome trio. "Hey dude, you got pretty good gear. We're gonna make a killing today," says the greasy-haired one. His friend smiles maliciously. "Yes, today's bonus is going to drop great, and the last one, a crazy girl." Comments: "Last night I dreamed of a big fat pig. I have a good feeling. Perfect. Completely crazy." The idiot stands up and says, "Boy, don't you know this is the Bait Guild's territory?" Kang just looks at him. The girl intervenes and asks if he knows what happens when someone enters a guild's territory without permission. According to her, he has to hand over everything he's carrying if he wants to leave alive. A second later, boom, one has already been sent flying, crashing to the ground, foaming at the mouth. Kang is there with his arm extended. The other two quickly open their system windows. One charges with a sword, but Kang grabs it with his bare hand, crack, breaks it like a twig and kicks him, rolling like a barrel. The girl tries to cast a spell from behind, but it barely hurts him. She turns pale, trembling, aware she's in serious trouble. Let's see if Kang treats both genders the same. He slowly approaches and says that in fact, he learned something useful from her, then gently takes her hand and adds, "In return, I'll teach you something good too." Activates his skill and his arm explodes. Yes, there are no special deals for anyone here. At that moment, he notices a larger group approaching. He narrows his eyes and asks, "Who are these?" One steps forward and says, "Pretty bold to act like this in Bait territory. If you want to leave alive, you better hand over everything." Kang shrugs. "Perfect. I needed some guides anyway." One of the Baits starts yelling at him. "The tutorial. Changed my life in the dungeons. Strength and money control. Everything. I was nothing more than another tool of society until last year. Now, I live large, thanks to this new world as an executive in Bait. I'm a tiger with wings here. Nothing scares me. So you better hand over your stuff if you want to leave alive." Before he can even finish, bam, a giant hand crosses his face, out cold. When he opens his eyes, everyone is unconscious. Kanganoid pulls a knife from his side. Pointing at those still awake, "You have 5 seconds to come here. Whoever doesn't line up in time dies. I need a guide." Time passes. Finally, Kang announces the results of his selection process. "Congratulations, Kim Sung has been chosen as the guide." Everyone give him a round of applause. Silence, so Kang slaps someone suddenly. Clap, clap, clap. Everyone applauds as if their life depended on it, because it does. One asks nervously, "Hey sir, what's going to happen to us now?" Kang pauses and asks, "Is everyone going to stop doing bad things and live honestly from now on?" Smiling faces everywhere. Yes, sir, of course. We'll never do anything bad again. Bam, right in the face. Yeah, sure, says Kang. You think I buy that garbage? No way. He starts hitting the guy until he's purple and unconscious, then calls Kim Sung, show me the way. As the sun sets, Kang comments that not all dungeons are like this one, but some have maps and dimensions the size of cities. After hours of walking, he addresses Kim Sung. Hey, you're not making us go in circles, right? Kim Sung immediately denies it. No way. I don't want to stay here longer than necessary. I'm just following the safe path to avoid monsters. Kang sighs. Idiot. Stop following that useless route. Go straight. I'll take care of the monsters. Kim Sung hesitates. All right, if that's what you want. Tomorrow we'll do it your way. While they stop to eat, the guide wonders why the hell our guy used 4 swords just to improvise a fire stand. Shortly after, things heat up and our guy takes something out of the makeshift oven with bare hands, grabbing the hot metal like it's nothing. Chews calmly and asks, how old are you? 25, the guy answers. Kang continues, what were you doing before all this mess? The guy hesitates awkwardly and says he was just desperate for money. His student debts piled up and he couldn't find a job. To make things worse, his father's business went bankrupt and everything fell apart. His mother had a crisis, but Kang interrupts, who the hell asked for your sad story? The guy blinks, thinking, didn't you just ask me? But Kang is already brushing him off with his hand. Eat and stop complaining. They finish eating and lie down to sleep. Kang wraps himself in a strange blanket cocoon. Like a warm creature, the other stays with a thin sheet shivering. In the middle of the night, he gets up seeing our guy sleeping like that, and thinks, maybe this is my only chance to kill him, but remembering how he fights that psycho. No, not a bad idea. Better escape. As he takes a step, Kang's voice cuts the silence. Where do you think you're going? Then, I'm just going to pee. Perfect. Do it right here. And makes it clear that if he tries to run, he will catch and kill him, so the guy. He lies down again and doesn't close an eye the rest of the night. The next morning, he guides Kang again. They finally arrive toward the direction of the goblin village. Kang says he feels a ridiculous amount of pack coming from there. The guy looks confused. I don't feel anything. Kang looks at him like he's trash. It's incredible how weak and useless you are. The poor guy can only laugh nervously and avoid crying. But inside, he thinks, I just have to hold on a little longer. Once this crazy guy goes in there, he'll be dead man. The dungeon is a huge village with patrols surrounding the limits. The guild Bait normally hunts those patrols since the center is too dangerous. But lately, Bait hasn't done raids in days. So not only are there monsters crowding the forest, but the goblin base is probably packed. Kang walks straight toward an army of goblins, smiles like a maniac, draws his sword and says, goblin massacres are my specialty. An entire battalion charges from the base and Kang gets even more excited. But just then a backpack hits him from behind. It's Kim Sung, making an obscene gesture. Die in that hell. I hope I never see that ugly face again. Kang will just turn with that pure psychopath look. When this is over, I'll find you. Meanwhile, Kim Sung runs through the forest. Heart racing, he stops to catch his breath and thinks, there's no way even that monster survives this, but then ding. A system window appears, core destroyed, portal to the outside world opened. They stare at the message, then look at each other. Among them, as if wondering if this is a dream, the ranky dungeon of the village. Goblin was not the typical type with a normal core. That was because all the forces were concentrated on defending the center. Still, my friend, the message appeared. It was done, the core had been destroyed, and the portal was open. He was simply there staring at the portal. In front of him, shaking like crazy, that bastard handled everything alone. But he couldn't explain how someone could achieve it alone against that absurd number of enemies. He saw the boy's strength, and although he was strong, it didn't seem enough. He intervened, saying the boy didn't have the firepower. I have to wipe everything out. Yes, he was powerful, but that wasn't the mission's objective. Friend, what really mattered here was absolute defense. The boy kept advancing full of cuts and bruises, but somehow he was healing as he walked, moving in a straight line. The only way he could do it so fast was by going directly to the great shaman and Kim Sung. That guy was now panicking, realizing that the bastard not only survived but went through everything without blinking, right in front of the boss. Kang said the answer was always the same. Brute force solves everything, and he went straight to the boss's mouth with his hand. I mean, his hand went to the boss's mouth, not his mouth to the boss's hand. Anyway, the great shaman died. He got a shiny little stone and a level 0 ring that increased mana regeneration and gave him +4 magic power. The brat was already loading his fingers with rings. All excited, now it was time to deal with the damn Kim Sung. But as soon as he came out of the portal, there was a squad waiting for him outside. The first thing he did was ask the air bandit what the hell all that group was doing there. Obviously, he already had a good idea. He started scanning the crowd and indeed saw the big fish among them. And at that moment, our boy got motivated, eager to smash someone's skull, but suddenly, someone stepped forward with a smile, saying there had been a misunderstanding. The guy approached and said they weren't there to fight, they just wanted to talk. He thought the guild members had made a mistake, but he was already there. Jung Wee-young from the Bat Guild wanted to know the boy's name. Kang had no interest in sharing it. He told them to drop the act and get straight to the point. So Jung Wee-hyun from the Bat Guild didn't beat around the bush. They wanted the boy to join the Bat Guild, a place where fame and fortune would be within his reach. They would even give him an executive position. Jung Wee-young from the Bat Guild was there all confident, knowing the boy was a rare talent, a hidden gem. Having him on their side would be perfect to increase the guild's influence. But of course, Kang said directly he wasn't interested. Jung Wee-young from the Bat Guild put his hand in his pocket as if he had expected it, and pulled out a golden card telling him to contact him when he changed his mind. The boy glanced at it, tore it in half, and dropped it on the ground, said yes. His personality might be trash, but even he wouldn't stoop as low as them. Everyone froze, and he got close to the guy's face, asking if he was upset and wanted to fight, but Jung Wee-young from the Bat Guild just said, "No, it's all good, he just wanted to talk. No fighting." Our boy walked away, calling them cowards. They didn't even have the guts to fight. Pathetic losers. And Kim Sung was there thinking that lunatic is completely crazy. It seemed like he had shaken him up. But back to our protagonist, who said they almost destroyed him. He had more than 100 enemies in front of him and was practically out of. Overpowered mana. If they had really fought, he probably would have died and lost 48 hours of his life, and on top of that, lost the chance to finish off that bastard Kim Sung. But it doesn't matter. His moment will come in the guild. The beaten guy said it was Kim Sung himself, who suggested it would be useful to the boy and help him get through the forest and everything else. Jung Wee-hyun from the guild asked if it was true. Kim Sung tried to backtrack, but one of the men had already drawn a sword. The poor guy started begging for his life, swearing he would do anything if they didn't kill him. The guy asked if he was really serious, and when he nodded, the other exploded, demanding to know how a damn traitor like him could want to keep living. He grabbed him, kicked him hard, and sent him flying. Actually, not just into the water. He threw him directly into the dungeon, and they closed the door behind him. What the hell was that? Oh right. My brain keeps assuming everyone comes back to life in this world, but the only one who does is the protagonist. So yes, that guy really died. And with that, he stole our boy's chance for revenge. Damn it. The leader told someone to pick up the guy's sword and find out everything possible about the one in the back dungeon. And of course, someone was already following our boy's car. Nothing suspicious. Meanwhile, the leader talked about how that brat had the nerve to reject his offer. Let him be proud. Whatever he wants, he's powerful. But what about the people around him? They're just as strong. If they can't control the boy, they just have to attack one of his weak points. Let's see how long that arrogant attitude lasts. Or no, don't go down that path, or you'll turn him into something much worse. In a cozy Korean restaurant, our boy is eating with his sister. She says she never thought her lazy brother, the one who used to stay locked in his room all day, would really take her out to eat something good. He replies that of course he's going to spend his money here. Nothing in life is more important than food. She asks him to pass the tongs, and he changes the subject, asking how things were at the hospital. How is their mom? She explains that the doctor said their mom seems stable and should wake up soon. He smiles, saying that's great news. She says she's genuinely surprised. She hadn't seen him so relaxed in a long time. Lately, he always seemed angry or tense. He says he's been smiling, but she replies that his weird smile obviously doesn't count. Suddenly, he grabs his stomach and says he needs to go to the bathroom, and he has a bad feeling that when he returns, maybe she won't be there and everything will go out of control. So he heads to the bathroom, washes his hands and dries them, and comes out only to see a guy sitting talking to her. He asks who he is, and the guy turns and bows. Kang. He still doesn't get it, thinks the guy is just trying to hit on his sister, but she says something seems strange. Because the guy seemed to know who he was, our boy is confused, and she hands him a paper saying the man asked her to give it to him. He looks at it, already suspecting if the guy knew who he was, why did he leave as soon as he saw him? But then his expression changes. The message is brief, just a casual greeting from the leader of the guild along with a phone number. But the message couldn't be clearer. Back at home, they are entering when his sister mentions she forgot to buy beer. She wants to go out to buy it, but he of course tells her no. He'll go, she should stay. At first he thought he was going out for revenge, but no, he really went to buy the beer. Still on the way, his thoughts run wild, wondering what those bastards are planning. No way are they going near his family. Maybe he should stop spending so much time in the port dungeons and stay more at home. Whatever the plan, this seems the worst of all. Just then his phone vibrates. It's a message from his father. When he answers, his father asks if he's home. He says no, he's outside. And then his father tells him his mother just woke up. Our boy asks immediately how he is and lets out a huge sigh of relief knowing he is getting better. Then his father adds something else, saying a friend stopped by the house earlier. Now he is confused. Which friend? And then his father says it was that childhood friend, young Wisung from the Bait Guild, who even wanted to say hello and mentioned he lived nearby. Yes, that left him speechless. His father keeps calling him, but his face freezes. His entire expression hardened the next day. At the talent association, two girls are arriving, chatting about something. When someone passes by and greets them with a good morning, they turn and call out Miss Shin Soon-ja. That girl is tough, literally, and not the friendly kind, but the terrifying kind. She hands them some bottles. The girls thank her, and she politely replies, "It's nothing," and leaves. They stay wondering why that lunatic always wears armor. The other says she's a bit eccentric. Yes, but deep down, she is a good person. Still, it's better to get used to it. This world is full of weirdos. Compared to most, Shin Soon-ja is practically a reborn angel. The friend replies she has dealt with many weird students. The other says yes, that those were probably the worst students she had. One crushed a girl's hand in a practice fight, and the other showed up at reception, radiating an intimidating aura. She still has nightmares about that boy. And look who is right behind them, suddenly releasing an aura pulse. She glances sideways and he is staring at her. A look, and attention. And suddenly both girls scream in panic. But he just approaches with a look like he wouldn't break a plate, calling them. Meanwhile, they are already pulling out their phones to call the police. One of them is completely red-faced. He asks them to calm down. He just wants to know where Mr. Lee Park is. He needs to protect his family and is looking for that man. Finally, they start to relax a bit, realizing he doesn't want to harm them. One explains that Lee only worked there as a temporary instructor, but he's no longer there. In a meeting room where Lee is giving a small presentation about how the levels of the apples are rising. Then someone knocks on the door. He asks what's going on, and the staff tells him there's a very strong guy in the lobby causing a commotion, insisting he needs to talk to him. Lee is clearly confused, but in the next scene they are already sitting face to face. He says he didn't expect to see him again so soon and asks what he needs help with. Kang goes straight to the point. He wants to hire Lee. The guy laughs, saying he appreciates the direct approach, but wants to hear the whole story. Frank doesn't hold back, says the Bait Guild, is threatening his family and provoking him, and now he needs someone to protect them. While he goes out and wipes the whole guild off the map, Lee is clearly surprised and asks what the hell is wrong with this kid, but admits he knows how shady that guild is. The problem is the association hasn't been able to catch them red-handed. There's no solid justification to officially go against them. Kang says perfect, then he will destroy them all and everyone wins. Lee shakes his head and comments that Kang is still as brutal as ever. What he really wants to know is why he isn't, like the strongest that exists, and also is part of the Dangan Guild. Kang's logic is simple. He says Lee is simply the strongest person he knows, nothing more. Lee replies he should have called Yuzong. But of course, Kang says there's no way to trust his family to that weird, venom-tongued guy. Just asks for a week. If his family stays safe during that time, he will pay a lot. Seriously, a lot of money. But Lee says without bragging, he already makes more money than Kang probably imagines. Plus, he is the sub-leader of the Dangan Guild. If Kang wants him to accept the job, he will have to offer something more than money. And right then, Kang, he already has an idea and asks if what he wants is his body. Lee responds immediately, asking if he came to close a deal or to tell jokes, since he is sure the boy will only say nonsense. If he lets him, he puts an offer on the table. It's not huge, but enough if he helps him for a week. In return, he will have to agree to meet with the guild master. Go ahead, boss. Why are you so excited about this madness? Of course, there is also money involved, but that depends on Kang. He must make sure it happens. Judging by how things are moving, it seems he accepted. Now there is a guard in front of the hospital, 5 cameras installed, a private security company watching his sister. They have a complete tracking system. Kang says they are being very cautious, and Lee responds that it's better to be safe than sorry. What Lee really wants to know is if Kang plans to handle the rest on his own, because there they are standing in front of the guild headquarters. Bait from afar, Kang comments that it doesn't look that big compared to others. Lee explains that obviously, the strength of a guild is not measured by the size of its building. Bait's power comes from its control over multiple abnormal dungeons. They definitely have skilled players and also have rare items. It seems Kang is heading to a meeting with them, and naturally, they are bringing out all their combat power. Kang explains that he really had no choice. When he received that letter, he agreed to set a date mainly to buy time and prevent them from going after his family, and at least it worked. He got enough time to secure their safety. Then he hands the car keys to the blonde boy, who is confused and asks why he gives them to him. Kang just tells him to park it at his house. The guy is worried, wondering if Kang is walking into a deadly trap. And the truth is he's not entirely wrong, but Kang tells him he doesn't have time to explain, that tomorrow morning he will be alive and well, no doubt. With that, he says goodbye and heads to the Bait Guild. For being an evil organization, their logo is surprisingly cute, even corporate. That bastard Jung Woo-jung is there with open arms, welcoming him, obviously surrounded by people. Kang says there are a lot of people for a meeting that was supposed to be just between the two. What's up, Jung-wook? Young tells him not to worry, since he's not yet part of the family. He needs to meet everyone first. Kang laughs. Family, huh? Well, in that case, I have a message for the whole family. They can all go to hell. Activates Lion's roar and attracts everyone. Boom. Shockwave to the ground, smoke everywhere. Total confusion, portals shining, the floor cracking, and Yun shouting that Kang is completely crazy. Suddenly, a metal bar shoots out and Kang is already unsheathing his sword. Aaron-style technique activated, titanic strength flowing. He made a spear head-on. At first, it seemed like he had summoned metal, but no. He actually smashed the floor and threw everyone into a huge underground arena, a trading facility right beneath the guild. As the dust settles, they get up, brushing off debris, saying the impact wasn't that bad, but then Jung Woo-sung asks him to be more reasonable, that it's not too late. They could still be allies. Kang replies that he's not the one who lost his mind. That happened the moment Jung Woo-sung crossed the line. Jung Woo-sung doesn't give in, begs Kang to calm down, saying he must understand that if they work together, not even the Dangan Guild could compete. Kang just tells him to shut up, but Jung Woo-hyun doesn't stop. He says that now his guild has more than 200 members inside this very building, so their chances of getting out alive are almost nil. He should think it over. All that the Bait Guild ever needed was a famous face. Just one person, strong enough to be the front line. Someone to carry the name and reputation of the entire organization. In the middle of the speech, Kang spits in his face and tells him he sounds like a kid giving a school presentation, that he should leave the guild world and become a YouTuber. Instead, the guy wipes his face and stares at him. Then he starts trembling and says he knew it, a poor, miserable nobody like Kang would never understand the ambition behind a great guild like Bait. But look at Kang's expression. He's laughing right in the guy's face. He asks if everyone up there heard that the guy just called him a plebeian, a somewhat strange choice of words. For someone from the 21st century, the idiot probably thinks he's some kind of aristocrat. He's practically about to explode, and with that, Young tells everyone to attack. He wants to see how long Kang can keep talking. Once things get serious, suddenly the whole room lights up with spells. Mana restriction, mental corruption, void, magic, confusion. Every skill. You can imagine all colors flashing in every direction, but Kang simply activates Lion's Roar again. Most disadvantages are purged instantly. And for the few that still affect him, the resistance ring gives him an extra bonus against them. Besides that, the enemy's morale drops quickly. Young starts shouting, calling the group a bunch of fools. They should stop hesitating and finish him off already, but no one dares to get close. Everyone keeps their distance and casts spells from afar. Then Kang uses that Antreus skill that turns his skin completely black. Says he wants to see what it does against magic. An explosion shakes the room. The remaining soldiers finally charge. Now there's serious attacks flying from all sides, until out of nowhere, a wave of slashes cuts through them first. Kang struck before anyone else could. The leader can't believe it. This guy is handling everything completely alone. Then Kang takes a deep breath and shouts, challenging them to all come at him at once. Some time passes, and now the whole building is in ruins, reduced to nothing but ashes. There's Kang still standing while the others are completely wrecked, lying in pools of blood. But it's still clear he's not in good shape either, and there are still many enemies around. Young tries to act like nothing and asks Kang if he's realized he has no escape. Plus, he's killed dozens of people. Now he's like them, a killer. So maybe it's time to consider joining their side. The dog tells him to stop trying to make him feel guilty. They were the ones going around killing people. They had to be ready for when the tables turned. Jung growls that Kang stays very calm for someone about to die. He may act confident, but even he must know how exhausted he is now. Suddenly, steel bars rise from the ground and trap him, but Kang says that's not what's happening still at that very moment. Maybe it is because they stab him in the back, piercing him side to side. While already dying, he thinks at least he held on long enough. Maybe that's enough. Jung approaches, praising the vice, praising the vice, praising the vice, praising the vice, praising the master, but says he'll be the one to deliver the final blow. He wants to handle it personally. The leader's thoughts race. He can't believe this guy is still alive. After all those wounds, he's so good, he changed the whole guild. Just to have someone like him on the team, but he gets closer and says the worst thing is a beast. Completely out of control, he asks Kang if he has any last words. Kang smiles and says, from now on, every soup you eat will have a hair. Maybe it's some kind of Korean curse or insult. The leader murmurs that this guy is really going to keep that tough attitude. Until the end, he puts his hand on his face, and that's it, cooked. Damn, that death was brutal, stabbed, burned crazy. He turns to the vice master and asks about the situation. The guy explains they lost 30 members and another 50 were injured. Furious, the leader shouts that all this was for a useless bastard. But well, in the end, it was all to keep the team that released his body anyway. So his friend tells him to look, something is wrong. The boy's body had disappeared. Yes, he revived and lost a level as well. His stats were reduced by half for the next 24 hours. He enters his room and his sister immediately gives him a sharp look, telling him she already imagined he would do it again if he's coming out of his room, and she didn't see him enter through the door. That means he died. So clearly he risked his life again. He just tells her to stop scolding him, that he's hungry, but she immediately replies to take off his shoes, that he's leaving everything full of dirt. And it turns out the ashes he's leaving behind are his own literal ashes from being burned alive. Charming 2 days later in front of a dungeon controlled by the Bait Guild. At the gates of Kika Canyon, one of the guards complains that he's bored. To death, it seems. No one ever shows up there. The blonde one says it's because people are spreading rumors about the Bait Guild. So wherever they go, people stay away. The first one says everyone is a coward nowadays, and that if they take part of the loot and make it harder, people should still come here to farm if they want to make money. At that moment, his expression changes. He says someone is coming, they still don't know who it is, but look, who approaches wearing a mask stops right in front of them. They both look at him and ask who this weirdo is. After that invasion, Kang realized something attacking their base over and over was like trying to break a rock with an egg. Of course, he has infinite lives, so technically he has infinite eggs, but the problem is that the penalties for resurrection would eventually bring him down to level 1 and leave him too weak. That's why the plan had to change. Now it was time to destroy that disgusting guild from the inside and inside the dungeons they controlled. Everyone was already dead. One of the blonde guys is begging for forgiveness, but Kang wants to know exactly why he's apologizing. The guy admits he's not sure. He just wants to know why they killed him. Kang throws him to the ground and tells him not to apologize. If he doesn't even know the reason, then he throws a paper beside him and orders him to write all the names of the dungeons managed by the Bait Guild. The guy doesn't hesitate at all, not even a second. He takes the pen and says, "All right," and starts writing, but Kang wants to know how it is that they never get caught. Despite having killed so many people, even if they were careful, something should have leaked. Eventually, they impersonate authorities. They have someone infiltrated. What kind of skill are they using? The blonde says he's heard something about the police, but he doesn't know the whole story. Sounds like it has to do with dungeons without cameras or with patrols turning a blind eye. He finishes writing the complete list and hands it to Kang. Kang skims through it and says, "You're quite talented, huh?" Then puts his hand on the guy's face, activates a skill, and blows his head off. That way, he also made sure his identity wouldn't be exposed. The members of the Bait Guild had no idea, but something even worse was approaching, and indeed the newspaper would report that the monster had escaped and that a disaster had struck a famous guild. Well, not exactly. The guild leader had to use that excuse so the world could understand what happened at their base. The problem was he was saving that excuse for later, and now he was furious because he had to waste it at that moment. Someone opens the door and says they have a problem, but receives a blow to the forehead. It was actually ashes. The guy received a burst of hot ash in the face, enough to leave anyone stunned. Jung shouts, asking why that guy entered like that without warning. The guy apologizes but says that person has returned. The leader asks if he means the one with the mask, and the guy nods. The crazy one, who has been destroying his entire guild and has already killed more than 100 members. Young has no idea who that lunatic is. The place is already falling apart, and now no matter where he sends his people, they're all dying. Then he says it's time to stop trying to control several different places. They should send everyone to the same dungeon and stay vigilant. The guy with the bloody forehead nods and says okay, he'll take care of it. As he closes the door, Jung stays thoughtful. 5 days ago, Kang attacked and his body disappeared. 2 days later, a strange figure appeared, killing everyone. He felt it at that moment, and now thinking about it, it's too obvious. Kang has an accomplice. Someone must have used his skill to take out his corpse. Something that steals or hides bodies. He has no choice. He will have to go all out. He makes a call, and when the other person answers, asks what help the Lord of Justice needs, and honestly, I have the feeling it's that weird guy, our protagonist. Met during training. One who probably won't want help once he knows who it is. Young says he needs assistance, and the voice on the other end wants to know who's causing trouble to a guild as powerful as his, plus what could an idiot like him offer? The guy is much richer than Young. Yes, he knew that exactly. The guy says he's about to have a very good fight. Doesn't he like a little entertainment? He should know that the person he's going to face is not just any ordinary human, and so he said it. Maybe the risk is worth it. Then later that night at the entrance of a dungeon, the artist and the writer are clearly being dramatic, hiding the character's face, but we already know who it is. Yoon simply says, "Everyone here are Jung's lapdogs." He wants to know when that so-called peso is supposed to appear. Peso. They better hope there's a real fight when he arrives. If not, they will be the ones who pay the consequences. One of them trembles until suddenly someone appears in front of them, and look who it is. The moment he sees him, Yusung lights up. He can feel it. His sixth sense goes crazy. Normally, he gets a vague idea of his chances of winning, but for the first time, his whole body screams if he doesn't want to die. He better run from that monster, but Kang goes straight to the point and asks what he's doing there. Yusun recognizes him instantly too, and wants to know what his older brother is doing in a place like that. Then he starts putting the pieces together. So it's him who's out there, finishing off the bait guild. How does this guy always find such fun things to do? Kang remembers that Lee said the bait guild had the backing of some rich big shot, and now he thinks maybe it's Yusun who's behind it all. He presses his sword against the guy's neck and asks him directly if he's with bait, but instead of getting scared, Yusun just tells him not to lump him in with that trash. Kang tells him then explain it, and Yusun replies that Kang should know his leader, that bastard Jung, the one with no pride who kneeled to beg for help. He made him beg for hours before accepting. I don't know what kind of plea that was, but this is getting weird. Kang says it's okay, he already understands. So forget it, since there's nothing left to resolve. He says he's going to kill everyone there, and that's it. After that they can go eat something. Oh wow, but when he turns around, Yusong tries to attack him from behind. Kang blocks the blow and follows up to see what the hell Yuzun is doing. He says a brief sentence, commenting that he would have been disappointed if Kang had just left like that. So here we go. This is about to explode. I really thought these two would manage it without fighting. But Yuzun says he's not going to hold back just because they know each other. Another one of them covered in red shouts that he wants Kang to go all out too. The Titan's strength activates. Wayne's secret sword technique is unleashed. He attacks again, but Yusung dodges, then laughs and says that Kang is becoming more monstrous every time they see each other. A sincere fight was exactly what he wanted. The problem for Kang, however, was that all this mess was clearly interfering with his plan. His idea was to enter a frenzy of slaughter and then disappear. But here's another trouble addict, excited and complaining that too much time had passed. Since his last real fight, Yuzun notices immediately, commenting that he sees his older brother is really enjoying it at that moment. Another poor unfortunate bursts in shouting that they should die. The two exchange confused looks, while this guy seems to believe he is about to become some kind of executive until he receives a hard blow to the head and well, it seems he might have been knocked out. Yuzun still wants to know why that bastard thought it was a good idea to interrupt their fight. Kang thinks to himself that apparently Yuzun really is not on the side of those other troublemakers. Still, he never expected his opponent to actually kill the poor guy. Then he puts away his weapon, declaring that this nuisance has completely ruined the atmosphere of the fight. That fight wasn't very satisfying, so it seems he will have to have another one soon. But ideally, it wouldn't end up hating this guy more than he already does. In fact, Kang can only think that he despises this guy more than anyone else imaginable. Then the blonde intervenes. Brother, do you even know what kind of person Young is? He was the illegitimate son of a man who owns countless conglomerates. That's why he thinks he can do whatever he wants in this city at any time. The jerk responds that he doesn't care. It's not like this jerk, just because he's rich, would wipe out his family. If he had any doubt, he wouldn't have started all this. So there's no reason to interfere with him for any reason. Yuzum grabs him and insists he listen until the end. He has no idea what our guy is planning, but he wants to be part of it too. He was eager to ruin that delinquent's life. The next morning, the poor fool is holding his head practically exploding with rage. Another dungeon has been taken, and a bunch more members have been massacred. The worst part is that Yusun has cut off contact and has no idea what the hell happened. His life has been a total disaster lately. Everyone who works for him is completely useless. He's there, furious and panting, demanding that they immediately bring all remaining members since they're supposed to settle this today. The guy tries to explain that they've already lost so many members that gathering more won't help much, but the leader simply orders him to go out and bring whoever he can find. The man admits he had been keeping the news, but that most of the members had fled the guild for fear they would be killed too. Young then declares that fine, then they will kidnap the parents of everyone who left the guild, threaten them, and soon everything will return to normal. His companion keeps insisting, explaining to the boss that the atmosphere simply isn't right. No member will accept that, and it will only drive him crazier. At that moment, he receives a call and asks who the hell is bothering him now. When he answers, someone tells him that it seems he's in trouble. Young recognizes the voice and starts trembling. At the same time, he realizes that this situation could have been handled easily. Meanwhile, on the internet, everyone is celebrating now that Bait is no longer kidnapping a bunch of dungeons. Finally, everyone has a place to farm. Yuzum goes after our guy, noticing that his actions are starting to bear fruit. In less than a week, the whole vibe has changed. He responds that it's time to end things, and Yusong, he wants to know why he's enjoying it so much at the same time. He is curious to know what the grand finale will be. Kang says that since he is the boss, he will tell the details. He orders Yusong to come closer so he can reveal the secret. Although naturally, none of us will know anything, but it's not much of a secret anymore, because even the crazed Yusung, instead of getting excited, asks if he has lost his mind. The leader then receives a message ordering him to head to the Slupin forest That would be the only chance he would give that idiot to save his guild. The leader crumples the paper and murmurs that the bastard finally wants to face him face to face. Perfect. Then today he will see the face of that villain, and he will tear the skin off his bones. All the guild members are gathered there, although everyone feels uncomfortable, commenting that they actually didn't want to be there. In the first place, all this increasingly seemed more like a trap, and even with everyone present, they didn't exactly have the numerical advantage. Looking at the few people left, the leader couldn't believe he was about to face something so serious with such a pathetic group. It would have been perfect, even easy, if he could get that bastard to cooperate. We move to a flashback of that previous call, the one where the person told him it seemed like he was in trouble. The blonde sitting in the chair asks if he still needs help with the current situation. Young smiles. It was the perfect opportunity since he could no longer count on that traitor Yuzun. If this person agreed to help, he was sure everything would be resolved. So he responds saying the occasion couldn't be better. If this guy helped clean up the mess, he would receive a wonderful reward. And even his father would support him. But the person on the other end simply says that clearly Young still doesn't know his place, and that in that case, he has changed his mind. He's not going to get involved in that mess. The leader is stunned, unable to understand why the guy backed out so suddenly. Goodbye. Crushing the paper in his hand, he murmurs that he's just another arrogant brat, acting like a kid, but fine, he would deal with him later. For now, he was going to crush that cocky guy and then slowly take revenge on each one of them. The scene shifts to another part of the city. That same person from the call says that it has finally happened. All the remaining guild members are gathered in one place. The tattooed guy next to him asks if technically they are still allies, at least publicly, and if Mr. Choi Min-jun doesn't plan to send some kind of support. Choi tells him not to worry. There's nothing to gain by helping trash like that. His friend tries to argue that President Young wouldn't like that, but suddenly, bam, the blonde gives him a hard look and punches him right in the mouth. It's like watching a live soccer match. He grabs him, lifts him in the air, and says he better stop being afraid of that damn old man. The poor guy gasps, begging, "I'm going to die, let me go." Choi finally drops him on the couch, and the guy collapses, coughing nonstop. Choi turns to leave, saying just, "Keep doing what you always do and find someone else to back." Cut to the infamous Sloop and Forest, a rank D dungeon. Apparently, 6 minutes had already passed from the agreed time, and the guy hadn't shown up. The leader begins to suspect there was no way that bastard had arranged a fake meeting, just to make them come there like fools. But then the spearman tells him to look. Smoke was rising from the trees. Of course, it was Khan bringing all the dungeon monsters with him. As soon as Young sees him, he recognizes the bastard. For a moment, he thinks maybe it's a twin brother, but he immediately decides that there's no way two crazies like that exist in the world, and from afar, our guy shouts at him that he has missed him and hopes that he has been well, and that he brings him a small gift, an adorable wolf puppy. The whole group blushes upon seeing it, but it's clear there's something more. Kang tells them to go ahead and take the gift. Someone drops their spear and another guy completely mesmerized says he won't let the little creature suffer. He lifts it with both arms, like it was a baby, with a tender look saying he just saved something precious. The rest of the members also blush while the leader goes crazy, trying to understand why these idiots are acting like this. Then he understands. Kang must have kidnapped all the wolf pups from the dungeon, and now the angry adult wolves were chasing him. Kang, as if nothing, throws a bag full of them, saying they are gifts for everyone. The guild members practically cry out, shouting that tenderness is raining from the sky. But in the middle of the chaos, Kang leaps forward, cutting the air with his sword. The wolves attack. The leader immediately raises a fire barrier. Total chaos. And Young knows this is bad. With the Dora fans, it's already hard enough to deal with, and now with Kang slaughtering players in the middle of everything. There's no way. His only option is to escape. He gives the order. Everyone retreat. As soon as everyone starts running toward the portal, they shout that they never want to have anything to do with that guild again, but then Yu-sung appears right in front of them. Cheerfully greeting the crowd, they freeze. Then he jumps right in the middle of them and hits someone on the head. Yes, chaos breaks out in the forest now, and Yu-sung is having the time of his life. From a distance, Young sees him and instantly understands why that other lunatic is there. He betrayed him. Nothing is going according to plan, but he still thought there might be a way out. Or maybe he was just desperately looking for one, looking in all directions, trying to find a solution. The problem is, these wolves are a nightmare. They become invisible when they attack, but no matter how much he looked, there's nothing. No escape, no plan, no option, no other choice. It's time to use his final card. His hand starts to glow with flames, while our guy over there stabs people in the mouth. No joke, that's exactly what he's doing. Muttering that those damn cockroaches just keep coming, it's then that Young shouts his name, and suddenly he appears flying like a human torch, shouting he's going to finish them both here and now. The skill he uses increases his power, but burns his own body in the process. It really hurts. Kang blocks the attack, and then a huge explosion erupts. Singed and smoking, Jung gasps that maybe it was too much firepower. But even so, anyone who got that should be dead, except not always, because Kang comes out directly from the flames and grabs his head. The idiot doesn't understand how it's possible. Kang tells him to stop dramatizing. His fire wasn't that bad at most. It was a little hotter than a normal summer day. Then comes a brutal kick to the stomach. Jung spits blood and is thrown crashing into the side of a wolf. Kang tells him to stay still and watch, because he will be the last guild member to die. After everything he did, he's not going to have an easy death. Jung watches the massacre and starts laughing like a madman. Now he knows everything he built destroyed by Kang. Our guy has completely lost his mind, laughing at the sky like a lunatic. 15 consecutive panels of just him cackling, the sound echoing through the forest. Evening arrives, the forest floor is soaked with blood, covered with corpses and fallen objects, and now it's his turn. He keeps laughing when Yusung approaches him and comments on it. Kang asks if it's really a good idea to leave him alive. He seems to be enjoying some kind of wonderful dream, but Jung mentally prepares for the end until suddenly he wonders who exactly is this finish here. He changes his mind, says he's not going to end like this. No way is he going to leave like this. He is the illegitimate son of a father who spent his days eating pudding all over the city. In fact, that's how he met his mother. Thanks to pudding, his brothers, cousins, all more distant to him than complete strangers. Let's be clear. If the author thinks we're going to feel sorry for this guy, he's very wrong. Still, the pudding-loving father supported him, telling him that even if he was illegitimate, he had talent. But one day, everything changed. The tutorial began. The Awakened appeared. More girls showed up everywhere. The rules of the world changed. Now power decided how things worked. Jung starts giving his speech, but Kang interrupts him by cutting his throat in the middle of the monologue. Says he talks too much because villains always have to give endless speeches. Yosung laughs and says he should have let him finish. It was just getting interesting, but Kang lets it go. Thanks for the help and declares that this whole mess is over. It's time to leave. Yuzun, however, remains curious and asks what it feels like to finally get the revenge he had planned for so long. Kang scratches his chin and says he's not really sure. Then Yuzun insists, does it feel empty after killing so many people? And our guy answers without hesitation. It feels awesome. He killed everyone who deserved to die. For him, it was like when you have a clogged ear and you stick a cotton swab to remove a huge plug. The sensation is incredible, and at the same time, it's a satisfying relief. Jason just tells him it's clear he's not right in the head. Kang blows on his finger and says they should loot all the items from the bodies and split them 50 over 50, but his partner says he doesn't need the money. So Kang shrugs and says then he'll keep everything. He's not obsessed with money after all. He already earns enough in the dungeons, but he has understood something. Money and strength alone are not enough, and to keep getting stronger and protect what matters to him if he wants to secure his place in this world. He needs to form his own faction. As they leave the dungeon, the portal fades behind them. Yusong says that now officially, it's over. Kang starts to say he's thinking about founding a guild, but before he finishes, Yusong already says he's joining. Kang tells him he would never invite someone as crazy as him, but Yusong replies that even if he doesn't, he's going to join anyway because it sounds fun. Besides, his intuition tells him Kang was going to invite him anyway. Kang tells him to drop that nonsense about intuition and makes it clear he won't let him in. The two walk away, still arguing, teasing each other in a friendly way. This lunatic Yuzun, beyond his quirks with words, is actually a good guy. Then the scene changes to a corporate building where someone shouts that this was not what they had agreed on. It's the president of the Hansek group shouting that Choi Jun was supposed to be in charge of watching Jung. He's talking to Choi, who just gives him an empty look and calmly says he has done everything he could. Too bad. He has no idea how that kid is living now. The president explodes, telling him to stop playing dumb. It's been a week since anyone had contact with his son, a guild member. It's obvious what happened. Choi says he doesn't give a damn. It was already a miracle that he took that piece of trash and made him leader of a moderately decent guild. If anything, he's done more than enough. The president is totally losing control and suddenly orders everyone in the room to attack Choi, and yes, they all jump on him. But Choi just winks, and in an instant his Tokyo Ghoul-style power grabs everyone by the neck. He calmly stands up. He walks straight to the president and tells him the deal was already made. He is fulfilling his part without problem, so why is the president trying to change the plan now? But he warns that if he dares to order another attack like this, next time he won't let it slide. The guy, he is practically trembling now, apologizing in panic. Choi accepts the apology. He lets everyone fall to the ground and leaves, saying it's good to know the deal is still on. But there is something that still makes him curious. Who exactly was the one who killed Jung? And so the Bait Guild disappeared from existence, but it was a huge organization with tons of members. So its sudden disappearance caused a wave of rumors. Online, everything became chaos, but little by little the name Bait Guild faded away. Just one more among the many that had risen and fallen. Now we are in a cozy Japanese-style house, where our dynamic duo is relaxing. They say they will be fine here. No one is going to find them. That's because all the loot had already been sold through special connections, and now they are just resting. Yuzin says everything went perfectly, so why does Kang look so depressed? Kang responds that it's because he got a title that makes no sense. Relentless Home Destroyer is a title only given to someone who mercilessly shattered the lives and hopes of countless families. +2 strength and hostility increase from thugs and provokes fear instinctively in almost everyone nearby. And now that he thinks about it, when he brought those puppies he stole from the wolves, in the end, the wolves died, right? So yes, he really killed all those little creatures. And the worst part is that even without equipping it, that title still applies to half of his strength, which means he is now scarier than before. He slams the table with his hand, saying it was already hard enough to live with his appearance, so now this just makes it worse. Yusong tells him to calm down. No one liked him before, and no one will like him now. So what really has changed? At that moment, he receives a call from Mr. Lee Park of the Dan Gang Guild, who wastes no time and immediately asks if he remembers the promise they made. Kang has no idea what he's talking about. Lee says he figured as much, but the order has arrived. It's time to meet with the guild master, and he better show up as soon as possible. We jump to the 12th floor of the Dan Gang Guild. Kang asks if it's really okay even if he brings that weird thing with him. Lee says it's fine, the guild master accepted. Yosung tells him to stop calling it a thing, seriously, and that anyway he already knows the guild master. They are quite close. Kang raises an eyebrow. How close? Yosung says that once at a party he saw her there. Kang already understands. Just a group of kids, rich from the same high society circle. No wonder they knew each other. At the door, Lee calls the boss and tells them to come in. When Kang enters the room and looks around, he finally meets a drawn girl who is not his sister. She introduces herself as Han Seon, guild master of Dan Gang. Kang greets her, and she says she has heard a lot about him. Lee leaves, telling them to make themselves comfortable. She offers him a seat, and he thanks her for the help they gave him. She replies that it's no problem, it wasn't difficult. Kang wastes no time and says he doesn't like owing anything to anyone, so what does she want? She asks if he wants to get straight to the point, and he responds that they are both busy people. Look at this guy now, a full businessman. Huh. She smiles awkwardly and says she was going to serve tea first, but fine, if that's the case, she won't hold back. And of course, exactly as expected, she offers him a place in the Dan Gang Guild, and exactly as expected, he rejects it instantly. She responds calmly, that's fine. Yusang intervenes to break the awkward silence, saying that Kang answered too quickly, that he could have at least pretended to think about it a little, but Han Seon says it's okay, it's better to see that he rejected it sincerely. Still, Kang insists he wants to compensate her somehow. She can contact him whenever she wants, and he will try to help her however he can. She accepts because it's always good for someone that strong to owe you a favor. If they ever need anything, they will get in touch. But Kang finds it hard to believe in a top-tier guild like hers needing something from him. Back then when she asks him how long he thinks his current peace will last. He understands it immediately since the dungeons started appearing. Crime has only gotten worse, and if she calls this chaotic situation peace, it means she knows about the 8th stage. Kang says he doesn't know the full picture either, but worrying won't solve anything. The only thing he can do is keep getting stronger. Besides, that dimension will take 5 years, right? But she corrects him. He's wrong in just 3 years. Most countries will already be fighting to survive. He asks how she could know something like that. She says she can't give details and then immediately gives them they haven't awakened, who can communicate with an entity that knows what's coming. I mean, if that's not giving details, well, Kang assumes that entity is probably the administrator or something similar. Then she asks him if he hasn't noticed how the difficulty of the dungeons keeps increasing, while the awakened don't grow fast enough to keep up, but Kang obviously hasn't noticed because, well, he always goes alone and always wins. Yusong explains that the awakened get stronger the more danger they face. That's why using firearms doesn't help at all. Instead, hunting with beasts or using bow and arrow, curiously, grants experience. The guild leader says that's already clear. The only people who really have a chance to save the world are the truly awakened and brave. And in a world like this, that crazy kid over there is a hero, but he tells her to think again. He's not a good person, much less some kind of hero. He's the type who went out and completely wiped out the entire Bait Guild. She totally unfazed, says she doesn't care about that bunch of trash. People like that didn't help humanity survive at all. So obviously, they didn't deserve protection or compassion. She even adds that a single decent guy like him is worth more than 100 like them. Shortly after, Lee enters the room and tells her he's already put both of them in the car, then wants to know what she thought when she saw him in person. She smiles and says he definitely exceeded her expectations. He asks if she really means it seriously, and she answers yes. For a moment, when she mentioned the administrator, he could see it in her eyes. She's sure he also graduated from the tutorial. Well, that's no longer exactly a secret at this point. The guy literally annihilated an entire guild. Now we jump to a city where the main gate is completely closed. The difference between an E-rank dungeon and a D-rank dungeon may be just one letter, but in reality, the strength of the monsters inside is much greater. Not to mention another big problem, the huge variety and number of creatures that can appear. Right now, our protagonist is going through that chaos, killing monsters left and right. Honestly, it's a pain to have to deal with so many different enemies. In a normal D-rank orc dungeon, it's simple. There's an orc warrior, and a giant orc warrior. But what he has in front of him now is a kind of strange chimera orc. It looks deformed with goblin features on an orc body, as if the proportions were completely wrong. The head even looks a bit like a goblin's, but it doesn't quite fit. Jokingly, he invites the monster to join his guild. Obviously, the creature just raises its hammer and hits it against the ground. Kang dodges and says if he didn't want to join, he could have said so. However, mid-jump, the monster launches a spit attack. Kang forms a spell in his hand, disperses the attack, and lands behind him. The spit was, of course, acid. He notices that besides wearing heavy armor, the creature is much heavier than it looks. Still no problem, he's a born strategist. Someone who can devise complex plans in seconds. And today's brilliant strategy: steal the monster's hammer and hit it with its own weapon. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the dungeon, a group of people talks about all the monster howls they are hearing. One of them assumes it's probably someone hunting. Another says to focus on what's in front of them. They all surround a girl. Seems like the perfect setting for our protagonist to make a rescue scene. A classic move of an alpha guy. Too bad he's completely crazy. She's probably going to be terrified. Then they hear a strange dragging sound, echoing throughout the dungeon. Of course, it's Kang, dragging the giant boss weapon behind him. Everyone turns around, and he says he's sensing a strange smell. It smells like criminals who enjoy being killed. The group still hasn't realized what's happening. They're still trying to figure out who the hell this lunatic is. But he lifts the hammer, and just by lifting it, he smashes it against the ceiling. The group is startled and tries to prepare, watching him with no idea what's about to happen. Who is this psychopath who doesn't even know how to use a weapon properly? Then while the hammer is still stuck up there, he pulls it down, dragging stone and debris with it, and slams it right in the middle of them. Kang brushes the dust off his hands and says it's a shame, but that thing probably wasn't worth it as a main weapon anyway. He decides to store it in his inventory while still watching the rest of the group. One of the guys says he doesn't know what that guy is doing there, but he clearly doesn't understand the situation. He leans forward to attack, saying putting your weapon away in front of everyone was crazy. But Kang simply hits him on the head without worrying. The guy's face turns purple and he falls unconscious. Kang grabs the leader by the hair, puts a knife to his throat, and tells the rest of those disgusting criminals to hand over everything they have. The way he says it is already strange, but immediately they all rush at him like lunatics. Our protagonist looks a little disappointed. His hostage didn't work. Apparently no one cared about that guy. What's your name, bastard? Kim Cusick, sir? Very well then. Cusick says, and then he crushes the family jewels. Yes, he grabs him by the crotch and starts using him as a weapon, spinning him like a plane and hitting people with him. While one is already broken and another is unconscious, Kang challenges the rest, saying, "Come on, this is my new weapon." Cusick one holds his sword clearly, realizing he's facing a maniac, and tells him not to come closer, but Kang charges again and takes out the whole gang. In the background, the poor girl is standing there confused. Watching the madness unfold, Kang looks a little disappointed that it took him longer than usual to deal with those guys. For a rank D group, it should have been faster. Then someone calls him from behind. It's the girl, thanking him for saving her. Thanks to him, she avoided a horrible fate. He tells her not to thank him too much. Hitting those guys was actually a lot of fun. She can lift her head. She straightens up, looking dazzling, and introduces herself as Shin Sun-ja, then asks his name. He blushes instantly. You can clearly tell his weak spot is women, and says she doesn't have to be so formal, but his name is Kang. She places a hand on his chest and asks how she can become as strong as him. He looks a little unsure how to answer, and curiously, here is when the story says the two biggest troublemakers in all of Korea join forces for the first time. Now, it's not clear if she's already crazy or if she'll end up that way. Of course, Kang tells her that to become strong, she has to work very hard. That's the secret. She asks if he means hard work, and he says not exactly. She has to be willing to die for what she wants. Literally, the poor girl is clearly confused. He realizes she doesn't fully understand. That method of leveling up by almost dying only works for him since he's immortal. He is already thinking that on the way back he better be careful, or he will run into more people like those guys. But just as he is about to leave, he turns around and asks if she can get out on her own. She says it doesn't seem strange to her. Normally, someone would have asked for help. But she just stayed there silent, so he tells her that although he would like to help her, he can't leave yet. He still needs to finish the dungeon. She says that's fine and asks if she can accompany him. Kang, confused, tells her not to take it so seriously, about being willing to die to forget it and focus on getting out. But she insists it's not because of that. She knows what her place is. She promises to follow him silently, like a ghost, not take any mana stones and not cause trouble. He warns her it will be very dangerous. She says she can take care of herself. Very well, then you can follow me, miss. Let's go now. He is cleaning his sword. After finishing off another group of monsters, she congratulates him and says she will pick up the mana stones for him. He gets to work gutting a monster and throwing the stones into his inventory. He starts to realize she's not bad at all. She can really handle herself. She seems to have some kind of stealth ability because every time a fight starts, her presence simply disappears. But from time to time, a perfect arrow appears out of nowhere. Even better, she's collecting mana stones, something he normally doesn't pay attention to. But well, in the end, it's extra money he asks. What she wants to do since he can feel a strong energy coming from nearby. Most likely the boss is right after the next room. She answers without hesitation. She has made a decision. She will follow him to the end. But just at that moment, it appears on screen in front of both of them, saying the dungeon core has been destroyed and the portal is already open. He is confused, wondering if someone else cleared it before him. But suddenly he realizes that's not the case. He can still feel the boss's presence, which means it's actually much worse that someone cleared it. Yes, it's a dungeon break and not just any break. It's the first rank D in all of Korea. Meanwhile, the news is going crazy, reporting that 10 dungeons broke at the same time. Experts already suspect some kind of coordinated terrorist attack. According to the data they are analyzing, a man runs down a hallway and bursts into a room and calls the president. That man is named Choi Dong-woo and says, "It's ready." The one who entered tells him one of the dungeons that broke was rank D. Dong immediately asks for the location, and when he hears it, his expression darkens. It's one of the worst possible places. That's because it's the most troublesome one they have been dealing with for a long time, and no one has been able to clear it. The man asks if there is any guild nearby that can help, but the only one close enough. Han Yul apparently went on vacation abroad. Dong tells him to gather 50 elite members. No matter what, they will have to handle it themselves back at the Dangan Guild. The guildmaster comes out, elegant as always, asks what's going on. And Lee brings her up to date. She hears about the rank D dungeon, and immediately knows that if things continue like this, many people will die. Lee says it will be difficult. The only nearby guild is Hangel's, but they are not available. She clearly shudders, but he mentions that apparently there is an awakened individual down there who is taking out tons of monsters. She asks how one person can achieve that. He laughs and says he's a tough guy with a huge sword and a face scarier than the monsters. She smiles instantly. If it's that guy, then there's nothing to worry about. And in the middle of the city, there they are. Our guys soaked in blood standing on a mountain of corpses. Everyone is gathered around, completely amazed that one person, he did all that on his own. That is the power of a true awakened. The blonde boy thanks him, saying it was thanks to him that everyone survived. Kang, he just tells them to get out of there quickly before people start dying. They are confused. He is clearly handling everything, but Kang has already realized something. The portal hasn't closed. That means the boss is still inside. He tells everyone that if they stay, they will die and that he won't be able to protect them. The blonde boy keeps insisting, trying to act like he's another awakened, saying they should stay united. Kang just asks one question: how many Chimera have you killed? The guy hesitates, which is all Kang needs to know. Clearly, he hasn't defeated even one. His presence will only get in the way, so Kang tells him to leave and help evacuate the civilians to the hunters around. They don't like it. They think he's being arrogant, but after seeing him, bloodied, and containing his anger, they realize maybe the best thing is to obey him. Suddenly, everyone runs for their lives, except her, who stays there, not knowing what to do, but Kang trusts her. He turns and asks if she can handle this or not. He counts on her to cover him, so she better find a good place to hide. She is surprised that he trusts her, just like us. She quickly answers yes, then the door starts to crack. A huge armored foot stomps the ground, and here come creatures with tiger heads, monsters, Chimera, that stand right in front of him. They were supposed to be the 4 heavenly kings, but only 3 appeared, each one as strong as that ogre Kang. Barely managed to defeat alone, and worst of all, the boss hasn't arrived yet. And now he is coming. No, it's not Einstein, but he looks a lot like him. An imposing skeleton covered with robes. The creature speaks, commenting that the monsters of this place are as strange as its architecture. Looks at our boy, calls him human, and asks if he really intends to end all this alone. Kang, already pulling his weapon from inventory, answers that he is right, pulls out that huge hammer and strikes the first enemy, declaring that he will smash the head of each one of them. The skeleton says he has never seen a human so arrogant, but that his body might be useful. Maybe he will put him at his service. Kang tries to provoke him a bit since the guy talks so much, and asks what he thinks about a one-on-one fight without minions. Obviously, the skeleton just mocks him, spits on his hand and says he already imagined that, raises the hammer and says, "Then let's begin," and the fight starts. The four heavenly kings charge, and Kang lets out the lion's roar the creatures receive. The effect, while he jumps to deliver the first blow, he brings his hammer down hard on the skull of one of them, saying that head will be the first to explode, and he doesn't stop. Keeps hitting until it seems truly dead. The skeleton watches, confused. He can't feel any mana coming from the boy. So where the hell does that brute strength come from? Honestly, it would be a waste to kill him. Maybe he should keep him alive, and use him as a servant while he is lost. In his thoughts, the orc's helmet cracks and falls to the ground. The only problem is that Kang's legs are trembling and he is clearly running out of strength. That damn weapon is too heavy. The skeleton extends his hand and activates a mind control spell. The attack seems to take effect. Green flashes light up Kang's pupils immediately. The boss thinks it worked and that now the human is under his control. He welcomes his new servant and orders him to kneel and swear loyalty. Kang pretends to obey, then flips him off, right in the face, and tells him to get lost. Obviously, that mental resistance ring of his blocked the whole spell. The skeleton realizes that an object is protecting him and says it's a shame. He really wanted the boy whole at that moment. The tiger lunges at him and Kang activates the Antrio's ability. His entire body turns to stone, receives a brutal hit and crashes into the column behind him. Two monsters approach, but suddenly an arrow pierces directly into the head of one of them. The skeleton realizes the boy has support, but seeing that his tiger remains intact, he thinks it's nothing to worry about. Kang, on the other hand, laughs and congratulates Shin Sung, telling him his timing was perfect. That second he gave him, it was exactly what he needed to get up and charge at the tiger. And he has exactly what he needs for this. Aiming straight at the protruding arrow, the hammer hits it squarely, driving it into the tiger's brain. The creature collapses, but then bam, a blow pierces Kang completely. No dodge, no block. He takes it full on, but still takes advantage that the damn thing is right in his face, grabs its arm and slams it to the ground, then pulls a sword from his inventory and plunges it directly into the serpent-like creature coming at him. Another clean strike with the blood-covered sword. Kang looks back and says, "Now only the egghead remains." The boss tells him to stop bragging. Someone with no mana won't be able to defeat him, and it seems he's right. Kang realizes the bastard has noticed he has no mana left. After facing those three weird creatures and their regeneration, he's already at his limit. To make matters worse, he can't even land a good hit on that floating skeleton. His legs tremble weakly, and he tries to climb the nearby ruins, but his attacks no longer seal anything. So, his heart tightens, he's hunched over coughing up blood, stumbling among monster corpses, collapsing like trash. The skeleton says that finally, the blow he landed directly on his chest has taken effect. Of course, it wasn't just any blow. The moment his body was pierced, there was no reason he wouldn't have been poisoned. Now that the boy's death is almost certain, the only thing left to do is surrender, become a slave, and receive the antidote. But Kang tells him to go to hell again, and that he's going to turn that ugly skull into a 3D puzzle. He concentrates hard, using the little power he has left and some mana to try to purge the poison. His last resort is the Viljafin Berserk Sword skill. It increases his resistance by 1.5 times. The downside is that it makes his decision-making stupid to the max and leaves brutal side effects afterward. Still, he yells at the bastard to come, that they'll go to the afterlife together. But just at that moment, a voice says he's done enough. Kang turns his head and sees someone arriving. Dong, president of the Hunters Association, and by his entrance, he doesn't look like a rookie. Says the boy has talent, but from now on he'll take care of things. Kang is surprised. This guy is a tutorial graduate. He didn't fail the first attempt without dying once. The man tells him to rest. He looks seriously injured. Kang tries to say he can still fight, but just then the pain hits him hard, and he falls to his knees, frustrated. He was so close to finishing the fight, but of course that guy had to show up right after he activated the skill, and with that, boom, he faints. Now he wakes up in a real hospital. His sister is sitting beside him, giving him a deadly glare, and immediately asks where the like is. So Arkin keeps bringing epic content for you guys. You know, like, comment down below, activate the bell. And by the way, in the pinned comment I left the link to my previous video, so you can go watch it, and I say goodbye. To be continued.